I live in this house with my parents. You are a disturbance, so please leave.
I was shocked. My husband, James, is a kind of guy who prioritizes his opinions and emotions. It's been hard to keep up with him. I didn't like the idea of living with his parents. That would be difficult for me, so I could not agree with him. But a week later, I never imagined he asked me to leave. I could not see how he can afford the monthly mortgage of $3,000. With all that in my mind, I told James, "All right, I'll leave, but I want you to sign this." And I handed him a document. My name is Catherine. I'm 32 years old and I work as a management consultant. My job is to analyze the current situation of companies and I point out their problems. And I give management advices. Working for this job, I caught the James' attention. James was working for this company. This brought a significant change to my life. James was the only son of the CEOs at a corporation. He was affiliated to that company. He learned that I was a management consultant. And from that moment, he developed a strong interest in me. Even though we worked in the same office, he never had the courage to ask me anything. He started gathering more information about me and my current contract from his father, the CEO. Furthermore, he asked my colleagues who interacted with me.
What exactly did you discuss with her?
I heard he kept repeating such questions to my colleagues. Then, I was analyzing the situation of the company, and I was totally unaware of what he was doing. However, when my days were numbered for the company, he took an unexpected action. Right in front of our colleagues, he offered me a bouquet of red roses.
Would you walk into the future with me?
It was a romantic proposal just like out of a movie or TV drama. I was surprised to receive such an unexpected proposal at work, especially from CEO's son. I told him I need some time to think, but he wanted to know the answer right away.
I want you to answer right now.
He insisted. Before his intense enthusiasm, I felt a bit overwhelmed and carefully chose my words in reply. If I were to advise from a friend's perspective. Additionally, a situation arose where he wanted my personal information. Moreover, other staff were there, and even the CEO, his father, was beside him. Under this circumstance, I didn't have the courage to say no to his request. I felt a coercive atmosphere was not good for an organization. The company A, which James previously belonged to, had a unique, intense athletic culture. This culture influenced the entire atmosphere of the organization and working attitude. Even if you have difficulties at work, they believed the passion would be solved it. Moreover, excessive overtime work and pressure to do well were considered as something that you can overcome with passion. Those who found it difficult to adapt to this corporate culture were labeled as lacking grit or energy. Conclusions were made without properly analyzing these reasons. I pointed out such issues of Company A and also suggested some remedies. However, to change the current situation of a company and what actions to take was dependent on CEOs. From the look of surprise and apprehension of the CEO who had listened to my proposal, I thought I should not expect significant improvements in a short time. If you seek advice from a management consultant and don't implement it, there is no point in consultation and giving advices. In that case, you might feel that the investment was pointless. Amidst of all this, after finishing my work at a company, I shifted my attention to new relationship with James. James texts me straightforward greetings like good morning and good night every day. And he asked me out on weekends. I have never had such a passionate boyfriend. I have never had such fervent affectionate boyfriend like James. Therefore, I was deeply drawn to James' warm charm. I believed without doubt if he loves me so deeply, his love towards me would remain the same after our wedding. However, I might have been a bit wrong. He didn't change suddenly, nor his character or attitude. As we proceeded to marriage without living together, different sides of him became clear in our daily life. For example, he does not know how to handle money. But that's not all. He struggled planning his days. If someone tells him they have plans on a particular day, he doesn't jot them down, so he forgot lots of things. Because of this habit, he has fewer friends he goes out with now. I remember when we were dating, we had conversations like,
"Are you off today?"
And when I confirm, he'd suggest,
"In that case, let's go somewhere it's fun."
We did not make clear plans. I felt this action wasn't so much because he's purposeful, more because he tends to forget if plans were made in advance. Sticking to plans can be challenging to him, and not being able to handle accurate money calculation in daily life is highly risky. He can do basic multiplication, and if you give him a simple math problem, he can find the correct answer. However, when it comes to real money calculations, especially budget management, It's not easy for him to express his desire for expensive items, even when they cost beyond his monthly income of $3,000.
I want this.
When I express my concerns saying, "Why would you want to buy something so expensive? It's important to only choose what's necessary for living," he looks a bit displeased.
I can afford this.
Saying so, he pulled out a credit card from his wallet. The credit card he carried wasn't just his. It was a card shared his parents. Then his background reminded me something. His parents always gave him anything he wanted. That might be the reason he doesn't realize the value and proper way to spend money. Ever since we have been married, I noticed his sense of money is a bit different. There were some issues that couldn't be solved soon. I strongly felt that he needs to understand the importance of money and savings. One day I decided to take him to a grocery shopping and explain to him the significance of setting a budget and buying only what's necessary. Even with my sincere advice, it seemed he had no intention of learning it. Then, all of a sudden,
Catherine, I cannot figure out. Why are you so cheap?
I was so shocked. All I could say was, huh? I had been trying to adjust to James's all this time. I was concerned of potential financial problem. Unfortunately, James did not get the idea. What I tried to teach might have annoyed him. Why are you like that? We're married now. Don't you think we need to save money for our future kids and building a new home? Despite all my explanation, James never had to be patient with anything. He didn't grasp the meaning of my words. I tried to respect his feelings, looking at things from his point of view, and made a lot of effort so we can come closer. However, I wasn't successful conveying my thoughts. One day, I was called to James's parents' house.
Catherine, I've heard from James, and it sounds like you're pressuring him to save money.
I chuckled with her words. But Linda, James is not frugal at all. We're married now, and I'd like him to change his mind about spending money. I planned our future with James, and I felt the need to act in that way so we would not have financial problems. I believed I was making the right choice for him and for our future. However, James apparently did not receive my genuine messages. To James, my advice and suggestions were just nagging. Why do you think like that? Now that we've started our life as a married couple, there are anticipated expenses waiting, like if we have a child or plan for a new home. I think managing and saving money is very important now. I need you to change your mind and thoughts. He never had to be patient. He always got what he wanted. I tried to respect his feelings, see things from his perspective, and getting him to understand my viewpoint. However, it seemed he did not get the message. When I expressed my thoughts to my in-laws, they looked at me in surprise and confusion. Appeared to be we had a disagreement. After uncomfortable silence, my father-in-law started to talk, saying,
"We believed you at first due to your position you held in my company. However, knowing you as a wife of James, who will be the next CEO, it's surprising to know your modest nature. We'd like you to consider the company's position of James and adopt a more affluent lifestyle."
I've occasionally been addressed or advised as a woman before, but I felt like my father-in-law belittled me. Regarding my profession and opinions, my expertise and management, my father-in-law did not fully agree. The advices and suggestions I gave to my father-in-law, he did not seem to listen. Maybe he believes that our company is fine as it is. The reason I was brought to this company as a management consultant was due to the company's senior management urging change, not my father-in-law's decision. The executive team strongly felt the necessity that something has to be done. That was a big concern for a company's future growth. Just because I am married to James, who's anticipated to be the next CEO of a company, doesn't look too bright. This also doesn't mean our lifestyle will be affluent overnight. James was only making $12,000 a month. The way he worked was inefficient, and he occasionally caused inconveniences to people around him that prevented him to miss on promotions. I was aware that he's been labeled as liable CEO's son. I tried to help him teach money management, budgeting, and making wise decisions. Instead of listening, he ran off to his parents. That sure was disappointing. At times, I wonder why I decided to marry someone like James. But now we were already married, there are nothing I can do about. Dad, Mom. Assets and savings are not something that always lasts. James is using the family credit card now, but this is only a temporary. I want him to be more frugal for our future. I believed expressed a valid opinion, but his father, my father-in-law, seemed he could not approve it.
Are you saying you know the right way to use money? That sounds like James doesn't know how to handle money.
My father-in-law raised his voice. I think it's a serious problem. James spends more on a credit card than his monthly salary. James and his parents didn't see this as a problem. This kind of situation led us to a disagreement, and I find it difficult to come to consent. No matter how hard I try, James believes he is absolutely right. That made me hard to take any further action. I told them I understand, but I was insecure. If James and my in-laws don't change their spending habits, I seriously have to think about this marriage, even a divorce. Especially if I can't expect any financial support from my in-laws, there's a high chance James will start relying on my assets and savings. Amidst this uncertainty, we received an offer for a new place to live. We had always dreamed of moving into a new home before our marriage, and we have been pursuing it so that dream would come into a reality. We have been searching for our future home before these monetary issues arose. I'm in the process of buying a property for $400,000 under my name and setting up a mortgage. Everything is almost ready for us to move in. With monthly mortgage payments of $3,000 and potentially having to cover James's overspending costs, I definitely want to avoid such a situation. With these thoughts in mind, I visited the city hall to get the divorce paper. When I decide to have a divorce, I plan to prepare documents that won't put me to a disadvantage and get him to sign them. Shortly after moving into the new house, James suggested,
Catherine, how about letting my parents live with us? That way, they can control your actions. Catherine, when did you ever see me go off the rails?
I definitely cannot accept living with your parents. I've always tried to respect your wishes as much as possible without making you uncomfortable, but living with in-laws is unimaginable. His true intentions became clear. James just wanted an ally to confront me. I said no to his suggestions. His expression changed. I became a target just to be criticized. I feared that this is an issue. Sooner than I thought, that day arrived.
This house is for me and my parents to live together. You are getting in the way of our life. Therefore, I want you to leave this house.
I was shocked by his words. In my heart, I couldn't contain my surprise, thinking, was he really such a selfish person? He never reflected on his spending habits and had been voicing his complaints about me to his parents. As a result, his parents started to criticize me. While he was doing all this behind my back, he avoided confronting me directly. Additionally, as if he couldn't confront me by himself, he decided to start living in this house with his parents. And even though I was the one bearing the responsibility of repaying the mortgage of this house, he asked me to leave. He seemed to have not given any serious thought to our future financial planning, his savings, or his parents' financial situation. Just 1 week after I refused to live with his parents, he informed me that he had decided to take care of them here and, moreover, ordered me to leave the house. Can he really afford the monthly mortgage of $3,000? I wondered. Then I told him, all right, I'll leave. But before that, can you sign this? I presented him with an official document. He seemed to accept anything without suspicion. But when he saw the divorce papers I handed him, his expression instantly changed to one of shock.
Wait, what? Are you talking about divorce? Why would it come to that?
I believe we both understand how different our views on money are, given our interactions and life together so far. I no longer see the point in continuing to live under the same roof. Tears welled up in his eyes, trying to hold back the sadness. It was clear that he once deeply loved me. However, from his recent behavior and words, it was also evident he found me bothersome. Honestly, I couldn't believe in a future with him anymore. He might have thought that being apart from me would allow him to lead a life truer to himself. With this in mind, when I communicated my fading feelings to him,
Can you really let go of me that easily? Living beside me, the future CEO, don't you care about that status and privilege?
I've never been interested in such status or honor from the beginning. Can you sign the necessary documents now? Given my resolute stance, he responded,
So you're truly okay with this? Everything is all right.
Even though I reassured him by saying, it's all right, he repeatedly sought confirmation with a hint of anxiety. After about an hour of discussion, he finally signed the divorce papers. When I asked for his signature on more documents, he became emotional but provided the required information. Those papers specifically stated that he would be responsible for the mortgage payments going forward, highlighting a crucial detail I needed him to acknowledge. Carrying these documents, I immediately visited the real estate agency and thoroughly explained our current situation and reasons. I was candid about the differences and future expectations between us. After that, I felt no need to act on his behalf, so I carefully packed my belongings and left the house we shared. Just a few days after I left, neighbors told me that James's parents had moved in. Time passed, and about a month later, it seemed James received an urgent notice from the bank. Shortly after, I got a frantic call from him.
Why? The bank contacted me saying they couldn't withdraw the mortgage payment. What's happening?
Why are you asking me that?
Wasn't it you who was mainly in charge of the mortgage payments? So, I thought it would be reasonable to ask you about it.
I responded with a mix of astonishment and a deep sigh. It seems he had not realized that the document I had him sign after submitting the divorce papers was transferring the responsibility of the mortgage payment to him. Moreover, I was taken aback that he had not noticed the importance of the credit card information he entered in that document. Perhaps, without checking his savings status, he might have rashly provided the bank information. As evidence, the fact that he received a call from the bank just 1 month after the divorce indicates that he failed to make the mortgage payment in the first month after the divorce. Our relationship is over. It's unrealistic to expect me to pay the mortgage. After all, I no longer live in that house. And you remember signing the mortgage agreement during the divorce and even included your bank details, right?
Wait, does that mean my account lacked the funds for the mortgage deduction?
Exactly. It's clear that you're overspending compared to your income. With a monthly income of $3,000, it's nearly impossible to make a $3,000 mortgage payment if you live luxuriously. From his expression, it was evident that he came to understand his financial situation. However, either feeling he couldn't ask me for financial support or out of desperation.
In that case, I have no choice but to consult my father. I'm currently living with him, so he should be able to support me with the rent at least.
Determined to seek help from his father as his last resort, he told me and abruptly ended the call. I quietly placed my smartphone on the table, took a deep breath, and muttered in a slightly surprised tone, "Is he really going to rely on his father-in-law?" James, in his everyday life, seemed indifferent to his job and was merely living as a regular employee. Although he claimed to be a CEO, he might not have had any interest or knowledge about the actual business operations and internal affairs of the company he worked at daily. And I had heard that his company was currently facing a management crisis. In fact, I was previously approached for business advice by some executives who were more concerned about the company's future than James's father. Father-in-law was extremely critical of my proposals and opinions.
How much can a woman know about business? I won't listen to someone so inexperienced and young.
He firmly expressed his rejection. Then, he tore up the documents and ideas I had worked hard on right in front of me. The company's executives and leadership were taken aback by this.
At this rate, there's no promising future for this company.
Feeling this way, they decided to leave the company with the skilled employees to seek a new path. Subsequently, the company's condition further deteriorated. The workload of the remaining employees increased drastically, causing more of them to suffer from overwork and stress-related health problems, and many eventually resigned. As the company led by my father-in-law continued losing workers, its financial struggles intensified. People in town began to whisper that bankruptcy was imminent, and there was a palpable sense that it might be true. Against this dire backdrop, my father-in-law, feeling the financial strain, must have decided to let go of the home he once lived in. Behind his decision to start a new life with his son, James, might have been the salary he paid James. I could have guessed James wasn't making enough, but I was a bit taken aback when he eyed my assets during tough times. I felt that his bias against me working as a woman played a role. As expected, I got a surprise call from James one evening.
Dad got super mad at me.
I could clearly hear his voice, choked with tears, over the phone. What surprised me more was that he hadn't yet told his family about our divorce. My in-laws thought I was on a long business trip and planned to celebrate our new house with a dinner at an upscale sushi restaurant upon my return. Knowing the situation, James found it even harder to break the news of our divorce. "I know you and Dad are struggling financially. That's why I think repaying a monthly loan of $3,000 is clearly impossible," I calmly communicated. Hearing this, James seemed to genuinely recognize his mistake for the first time and deeply sighed as he spoke.
Catherine, you were right all along. From now on, I'll reevaluate our finances, live frugally, and manage our lives more efficiently. So let's start over, together, in this house once again.
"So you mean, while I take care of you and your parents, I should bear the monthly loan of $3,000? That's a bit difficult for me," I replied. Afterwards, to block any communication from James, I blocked all his and his parents' contacts and got a new smartphone for extra safety. The company A, run by James's father, was definitely heading towards bankruptcy due to economic downturns, management issues, and key employees leaving one after the other. Many weren't surprised by this development. In fact, except for James and his parents, many had predicted the downfall of Company A. Ultimately, James's family couldn't bear the pressure of the hefty loan repayments and seemed to have no choice but to sell their house. The company's bankruptcy left the family in significant debt. As a response, the entire family started working hard from dawn till dusk to repay even a small part of the debt. Fortunately for me, I decided and finalized the divorce at the right moment before being asked to help with their challenging situation. Now, I live in peace and comfort.
Seriously, how can you even be here when you only speak Japanese? A woman laughed and gave me a cunning smile. Mary, the daughter of the firm's CEO, dropped her head uncomfortably, feeling the weight of her stare. Even to a low-level employee like me, she is always kind. I took action to change the situation and decided to discipline Morgan, the unkind client. I stole the show by revealing a side of myself that no one had ever seen. Morgan's face went white as a result. I'm Kyle, and I'm 30 years old. I started working as a mid-career employee at Easy Exams, a company that specializes in educational resources for children, 2 years ago. Everyone was silently concentrating on their computers at work. With only 100 workers, the company isn't very large. I worked hard on my assignments while sitting quietly at my desk. Kyle, would you be able to assist with transcription? It's the minutes of the meeting from yesterday. Yes, no issue. Today, I'll have it prepared. I started writing a summary of the requested minutes after completing my own assignments. Our ethos at Easy Exams is to concentrate on our own job without becoming involved with other people's work. Before I knew it, it was time for lunch. Some others in the cafeteria talked while they ate, but I sat by myself and ate in silence. How is the new endeavor progressing? It appears to be too much to manage. Yes, but Kyle has been assisting and is quite trustworthy. He works quickly. Yes, but don't you find Kyle to be a little mysterious? He never discusses himself. I remained silent and concentrated on my food when I heard this. The day went very quickly, and as people left the office to go home, it became quieter. An increasing number of my coworkers packed up and departed. I turned off my computer after I was done for the day. My manager, Harvey, yelled out to me as I got to my feet. "Are you heading out, Kyle? Fantastic work today. Tomorrow, let's try our hardest once more." "Thank you, indeed." I said, "Have a good evening." He smiled as he nodded. I walked out of the office with a small bow. I hurriedly made dinner, showered, cleaned my teeth, and fell asleep after getting home. I watched videos on my phone for a while till I became tired and went to sleep. I always did that. I saw a missed call from my older sister, Natalie, one day after work. I was curious, so I called her back right away, and she answered. "Hi, Natalie. What's going on?" "Oh, Kyle, sorry to bother you while you're working." "It's okay. What's happening?" She started to say something, but paused, sounding a little sorry. "I actually need your help with something. Would you be able to watch Bella for the weekend only?" "Bella? What took place?" "That is not typical. My sister and her husband own a joyful 2-year-old golden retriever named Bella. They genuinely adore her and consider her the darling of their home. The pet motels are completely booked, and we both have work trips to attend. Normally, one of us is at home all the time, but right now, we're stuck." "I understand. This weekend, isn't it?" "Yes. We'll pick her up by 9 p.m. on Sunday, I swear." I considered it. This weekend, I had nothing planned. I felt it would be enjoyable to play with Bella, and wanted to answer to my family's SOS, whether out of convenience or loneliness. "You got it, Natalie. I'll look after Bella. It will be resolved in some way, so don't worry." Really? Regards, Kyle. Good luck. Bella has become much more playful. On Saturday morning, I'll bring her over. I got it. So, Saturday, anticipating Bella's visit. Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. My sister hung up after saying that. I cleaned up when I got home in order to get ready for Bella. Although the area wasn't disorganized, I made sure nothing potentially harmful was left out for her to inadvertently consume. I did a thorough vacuuming on Friday night and told the landlord, Catherine, what was going on. I'd wanted to make sure there were no misconceptions, even though the unit is pet-friendly. I'm sorry, Catherine. I have a question. Catherine, who lives close, smiled warmly when I told her about the incident. Oh, I see. It's okay. How thrilling. Being an animal lover, Catherine seemed thrilled and asked about what kind of dog Bella was. I told her Bella was a 2-year-old golden retriever, and Catherine happily mentioned that she had once owned a golden retriever herself. With her approval secured, I felt relieved and ready to welcome Bella. I spent Friday night looking forward to seeing Bella again after such a long time. On Saturday morning, around 7:00 a.m., the doorbell rang. When I answered, there stood my sister and Bella, sitting politely with her tongue out. Good morning, Kyle. Morning, Natalie. Bella. Long time no see. How have you been? Bella barked happily and wagged her tail energetically. I crouched down and gave her a thorough petting. I'll definitely pick her up by 9:00 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks again. My sister left Bella's favorite toys, treats, and food before giving Bella a big hug. Bella, be a good girl and listen to Kyle, okay? With that, my sister waved goodbye and hurried off, pulling her suitcase behind her. My sister, a professional woman, always seems so busy. All right, Bella. Let's have lots of fun over the next 2 days. Bella barked enthusiastically, wagging her tail, and I couldn't help but smile. And so began our 2 days together. Bella's a smart dog who knows how to communicate what she wants. After playing with her toys for a while, she brought me her leash. Do you want to go for a walk? In response to my question, Bella barked excitedly and started circling around me. Amused by her playful pleading, I smiled and attached her leash. There's a large park nearby that even has a dog park. I decided we'd head there and started walking. Isn't this great, Bella? The weather's perfect. Bella barked excitedly, clearly enjoying herself. She wagged her tail vigorously, glancing curiously in all directions. It seemed like she was delighting in the unfamiliar scenery, so I matched her curiosity and took a few detours as we walked. All right, we're here, Bella. After a short break to give Bella some water, we arrived at the park with the dog park. I went to the reception to check in. Hello, do you have proof of vaccination and a license? Yes, I've got them here. Thank you. I pulled out the vaccination certificate and license from the bag my sister had given me. I'll check. Everything looks good, the receptionist said as she returned the documents to me. She explained the rules and precautions for using the dog park. I carefully noted everything and entered the park with Bella. Inside, the park was just the right level of crowded. I firmly held Bella's leash as we stepped in. All right, Bella. Don't bother other dogs if they seem uncomfortable and don't be too persistent, okay? Bella seemed to nod in understanding as if to say, got it. I continued explaining various things to Bella. She circled around me impatiently, as if to say, I get it already, now hurry up and take off the leash. All right. I'm letting you go now. Go on, Bella. As soon as I removed the leash, Bella bolted across the park at full speed. Wow, that's fast. She dashed to an open area away from the other dogs, turning sharply and running in circles, clearly having the time of her life. I took out my phone to record her antics and sent the video to Natalie. Bella sprinted around wildly for a while before returning to me, panting happily. Bella stuck her head into the bag holding her toys and pulled out her favorite ball. pressing it against my stomach. "Oh, you want me to throw it?" Bella looked at me as if to say, "Exactly," then backed away a little. I checked the other dogs to make sure none were heading our way. Responding to Bella's urging, I threw the ball as far as I could. "Go get it, Bella." Bella joyfully ran after it, grabbed the ball, and brought it back. We repeated this over and over, having a blast at the dog park. "Phew, Bella, did you have fun?" When I asked her, she looked to my face enthusiastically, clearly satisfied. "Hey, that tickles. All right, let's head back." We played to our heart's content and decided to head home. But that's when the unexpected happened. "All right, Bella, we're almost home. Today was fun. Ha." As I enjoyed the peaceful moment, Bella suddenly flopped down on the ground and refused to move. "Bella, what's wrong? We're not home yet." I knelt down to check on her, petting her gently, but she stubbornly stayed put. I tried tugging on her leash and coaxing her, but she wouldn't budge. I recalled videos on social media of dogs refusing to walk, with their owners either carrying them or dragging them like a mop. At the time, I laughed at those videos, thinking how tough it must be. Never thought I'd end up in that position myself. No choice, do I have to carry Bella. Just as I nervously began to slide my arms under Bella, wondering how much she might weigh, a beautiful woman passing by stopped and spoke to me. "Oh my, that looks tough. Is this her first walk?" I turned around to look at the woman. She was dressed elegantly and wore a gentle smile. "Ah, no, actually she's my sister's dog. She's usually energetic, but now she's suddenly refusing to walk." I called out to Bella while tugging on her leash, but she ignored me completely, lying stubbornly on the ground. At my wit's end, I didn't know what to do. "Is that so? Would you mind if I helped a little?" Sure," I replied, nodding hesitantly. She crouched in front of Bella, gently stroking her while speaking softly. "Bella, it's okay to take a break here. No need to push yourself. Do you want to go back slowly?" The woman's calm voice and soothing touch seemed to have a magical effect. Bella closed her eyes, clearly enjoying the attention. To my amazement, Bella soon got up and started rubbing against the woman affectionately. I couldn't help but think, wait, what about all the effort I put in? But I was just relieved that Bella finally got up. After Bella had refused to budge for so long, I couldn't help but wonder why. So I asked the woman. "That was amazing. How did you manage to handle it so well?" Dogs are very perceptive of human emotions. She probably sensed your frustration and thought it'd be fun to tease you a little. The woman laughed softly as she petted Bella. I could almost swear Bella had a smug look on her face, as if saying, "See, I bet you figured out. Honestly, you really saved me. Thank you so much." "You're very welcome. See you again, Bella." The woman gave me a polite bow and waved at Bella before walking away. I returned the bow, thanked her again, and then headed home. On the way back, Bella, having met the woman, walked along in high spirits as if nothing had happened. "Bella, next time, please just walk home properly, okay?" Of course, Bella pretended not to hear me. The weekend with Bella flew by, and my sister and her husband thanked me profusely for taking care of her. Though I was tired, spending time with Bella was truly refreshing, and I felt fulfilled. "Good morning," I said the next day as I arrived at work as usual. However, the office on Monday had an unusual tension in the air. When I asked a few colleagues who had arrived earlier, I learned that there was an emergency all-hands meeting scheduled for that day. What's going on? An all-staff meeting out of the blue. Could it be about poor sales or something? No idea, but it must be important. Let's hope it's good news. As everyone gathered and waited in the large conference room, our CEO, Mr. Kennedy, entered. A few executives followed closely behind him. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I've called this meeting to make an important announcement. The room fell silent as everyone focused on his words. Due to recent health concerns, I've decided to step down as CEO. Today, I'd like to introduce my successor, my daughter, Mary. She still has a lot to learn, but I hope you'll support and guide her. There was a stir in the room. Mr. Kennedy's retirement was surprising enough, but the announcement that his daughter would be the next CEO was completely unexpected. As Mr. Kennedy turned around, the door opened, and a woman entered the room. The moment I saw her, I was so shocked that I couldn't help but let out a gasp. Wait. The woman stood before the employees with a tense expression and bowed deeply. She was the same woman I had met at the park just the day before. Hello, everyone. My name is Mary. I'm sure the sudden news has surprised you, but I look forward to working with all of you to make this company even better. Thank you for your support. I stared at Mary, unable to believe my eyes. I never imagined that the woman I met at the park would be introduced as the next CEO of our company. Please take care of both the company and Mary moving forward. With those words, Mr. Kennedy, Mary, and the executives bowed, and the urgent meeting came to an end. As the employees began to disperse, Mary noticed me, smiled warmly, and walked over. Excuse me, aren't you the one taking care of Bella? Yes, that's me. Honestly, I'm so surprised to run into you again today and to have you introduced as the next CEO. I didn't see that coming. Mary laughed warmly at my reaction. I was surprised too. As I was introducing myself, I thought, wait, isn't that? It seems we both had quite the surprise. Looking at Mary's smile, I felt a strong desire to help her succeed as the next CEO. It's going to be challenging, but I'll do my best to support you. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Kyle. Nice to meet you. Thank you, Kyle. I look forward to working with you. Mary extended her hand for a handshake, and I firmly shook it. Her hand was small and warm. After starting her role as the CEO in training, Mary actively engaged with each employee, making an effort to speak with everyone and taking the lead in her work. While many employees appreciated her proactive approach, some were not pleased with the fact that she was Mr. Kennedy's daughter. Isn't Mary being treated specially just because she's Mr. Kennedy's daughter? Work has so many small details. Does she even understand that? With those words, a spiteful colleague dumped a pile of documents on Mary and assigned her increasingly complex tasks. Mary, though clearly overwhelmed, tried her best to handle the workload alone, but it was simply too much for one person. When I saw her surrounded by a mountain of papers, I sighed deeply. What an awful thing to do. Mary, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. It's just, there's so much work piling up. There's no way you can handle this much alone. I'll help you. Let's tackle it together. Really, thank you so much, Kyle. That's a relief. Mary's expression softened slightly, showing her gratitude. Of course. Let's get started. By working together to clear the paperwork and streamline the tasks, Mary gradually regained her composure. This event seemed to naturally increase the conversations between us. We started having lunch together more often and sharing our thoughts and goals during breaks. It was around that time when I was unexpectedly summoned to Mr. Kennedy's office. As I entered, Mr. Kennedy greeted me with a warm smile. Kyle, I have a favor to ask of you. Could you become Mary's secretary and support her? Me? As Mary's secretary? I'm not really the type who likes to stand out. I felt confused and decided to share my honest feelings. Mr. Kennedy acknowledged my hesitation but continued to persuade me. I've seen you and Mary together. While I understand she's not always viewed favorably by others, and it pains me to see her go through that, this is something she needs to overcome on her own. But when she's with you, she shows a relaxed smile, just like when she's at home. I was surprised by Mr. Kennedy's words. The thought that being with me helped her relax was unexpected. Knowing I might be supporting her warms my heart. If that's true, it makes me genuinely happy. If you support her, I'm confident she'll grow into her role. Please, Kyle. Mr. Kennedy looked at me with a serious expression. After a moment of thought, I made my decision. For Mary's sake, all right. If it's for Mary, I'll take on the role of her secretary. At my response, Mr. Kennedy's face lit up with genuine joy. He grabbed my hands with both of his and shook them vigorously. Thank you. Truly, thank you. Mary will be so happy. When Mary heard about my appointment as her secretary, she was ecstatic. Really? Are you serious? With you by my side, it feels like I have an army of support. Her radiant smile was so infectious that I couldn't help but smile too. I'm glad you feel that way. I'll do my best to support you, so let's work hard together. Taking on my new role as Mary's secretary, I worked alongside her to manage the day-to-day tasks. One day, it was decided that we would attend a party where several clients would also be present. The event included multinational companies, not just from English-speaking regions, but also from French and Chinese-speaking areas. I assumed everything would go smoothly, especially since interpreters were arranged for the event. Or so I thought. Wait. What? Are you serious? When we arrived at the venue, Mary's phone rang. As she spoke, her face turned pale. Looking at me in distress, I silently gestured to ask her what was wrong. The interpreters can't make it. You're kidding. Mary already seemed nervous about attending her first party as the company's representative. Now, hearing about the interpreter's absence, she looked ready to collapse. After ending the call, her face was completely pale. Are you okay, Mary? She barely reacted to my question. This is really bad, I thought. I gently guided her to an empty chair and went to fetch her a drink. When I returned, I saw Mary standing, accompanied by another woman. It was M. Morgan, the CEO of Morgan Trading, one of our clients. Miss Morgan, it's a pleasure to see you again, I greeted her. Miss Morgan responded with a cold smirk. Oh, hello. You're the one who recently became a secretary, aren't you? Let me see, Kyle. It's been a while. I had met Miss Morgan during Mary's client visits before, and she always carried an air of superiority. She was the complete opposite of Mary in demeanor. While I found her somewhat difficult to deal with, I kept that to myself. Even now, I responded with a polite smile. Yes, Kyle. Well, Miss Morgan said, I've heard Mary only speaks Japanese. That's not very useful in a global business setting, is it? Honestly, I wonder how someone like that even dares to show up here. Wouldn't it be better to leave? Mary's expression briefly showed a trace of sadness at those words. However, she said nothing and lowered her head. Seeing her like that made anger well up inside me. Hold on a moment, Miss Morgan. Yes, Kyle? What is it? She asked, clearly irritated. Mary is an incredible person and an invaluable asset to our company. The fact that she only speaks Japanese doesn't diminish her worth in the slightest, I said with conviction. My words seemed to irritate Miss Morgan even more. Poof. Anyone can talk big, but in a global business setting, multilingual skills are essential. With that, Miss Morgan walked over to a group of multilingual representatives. Moments later, she returned, bringing all of them with her. I couldn't shake a bad feeling about what was coming next. Mary, this is Jaku from France, Claus from Germany, and Maria from Spain. Why don't you greet them? Mary hesitated, but managed to muster a smile and bowed. Hello, nice to meet you. The representatives looked visibly puzzled, while Miss Morgan gave a faint smirk. Oh, Mary, it seems Japanese alone might be a bit challenging here, don't you think? She said mockingly. Reaching my limit with her condescending attitude toward Mary, I decided it was time to reveal my hidden abilities. Good evening, Jaku. It's a pleasure to meet you tonight, I said in fluent French. Mary exclaimed, What? In surprise, her eyes wide with astonishment. I gently placed my hand on Mary's back, encouraging her to step forward. Go ahead, Mary. Don't worry, I'll translate everything for you. When I winked at her, Mary finally relaxed and gave me a relieved smile. But French alone won't be enough, right? Miss Morgan sneered. I turned to her with a calm smile. Don't worry, Miss Morgan. I speak 7 languages. I continued by speaking in German and Spanish with the 2 representatives Miss Morgan had introduced. Starting with Mary's self-introduction, I sprinkled in some light jokes to make the conversation more engaging. As the atmosphere grew livelier, more people gathered around us, and I switched to Chinese, Korean, English, and Italian to introduce Mary to them as well. Together, Mary and I engaged in enjoyable conversations with the representatives. It had been a while since I used all 7 languages, and my brain was working at full capacity. Though I had been nervous at first, my past efforts didn't let me down. The conversations flowed smoothly, and we had a highly productive and enjoyable time. At some point, I realized Miss Morgan had left the area, glaring at us from afar with a bitter expression. I couldn't help but think, serves you right, though I knew it wasn't the most mature thought. Ah, I'm so glad everything went well. It's all thanks to you, Kyle, Mary said as we left the party venue. Mary got into a taxi, and the moment it started moving, exhaustion seemed to hit her like a wave. That's not true, Mary. It's all thanks to your hard work. I only managed because you translated for me, but still, there were several leads for potential deals tonight. What a success, Mary said, practically bouncing with excitement. Indeed, the party had expanded our network and seemed to open up promising new business opportunities. Hey, how about we grab something to eat? My treat. I barely ate anything, and now I'm starving, Mary suggested. As she said that, I realized I was hungry too. Speaking 7 languages after so long had taken its toll, and I could use some food. Gratefully, I accepted Mary's offer. The taxi took us to a French restaurant where we decided to enjoy a proper meal. Cheers. Cheers. We clinked our glasses, each sipping a single glass of wine. As we ate, reflecting on the ups and downs of the party made for an enjoyable conversation. When dessert arrived, Mary suddenly grew serious. Kyle, can I ask you something? How is it that you can speak 7 languages, yet before I joined, you were doing mostly manual tasks? Her directness made me chuckle a little. She had always been the type to ask whatever was on her mind without hesitation. I decided to be honest and opened up about my past. I graduated from Harvard University, and I can speak 7 languages, I revealed. Mary's eyes widened in astonishment. What? That's incredible. Harvard? But why didn't you ever mention it before? I sighed deeply, gazing into the distance as I began to explain. I've always been good at studying, always been the smart one. My life seemed smooth sailing for a while, but because of that, I faced a lot of envy and resentment from others. That's terrible, Mary said. When you excel too much, there's always someone who won't like it. I never boasted about my abilities. At least I don't think I did, but it didn't matter to some people. Looking out the window, I recalled the challenges of my past. Back then, I was working at one of the most well-known companies in Japan, thriving in a competitive environment. Wow, Kyle's on it again. That guy can do everything. He nails every project and gets nothing but praise from the boss. But honestly, he's kind of annoying. Maybe he should think about how it feels for the rest of us. I remembered colleagues whispering. I wasn't oblivious to those whispers, but I didn't let them bother me. During school, I had similar experiences, but usually managed to turn things around and make friends. But that was back in school. I later realized that was a naive assumption. One afternoon, on my way to a meeting, my colleague Hayden stopped me in the hallway. Hey Kyle, got a second? Sure. What's up? Look, I need a favor. I've got this new project, and I'm swamped. Could you help put together the materials? I'd owe you one. Seeing how stressed he looked, I agreed to help. My own work was mostly finished, and preparing some documents wasn't a big deal. "All right, I'll take care of it," I said readily, never imagining that during the project meeting, it would be revealed that the materials I had prepared contained significant errors. The manager, Mr. Miles, spoke up. "Kyle, what is the meaning of this? These figures are completely wrong." "What? That can't be." Standing at the back, Hayden folded his arms, a sly smile playing on his lips. "Wow, even Kyle makes mistakes. This is a big deal, though," he said. His words seemed concerned, but the amusement in his eyes made it painfully clear he had set me up. As I stood there, stunned by the situation, I could hear Mr. Miles' exasperated sigh. "This will delay the entire project. Someone needs to take responsibility." Although I wasn't fired, that incident marked the beginning of persistent harassment from my colleagues. I wasn't informed of important updates, was intentionally ignored during meetings, and subjected to other subtle forms of mistreatment. Why is this happening to me? I wondered. All I ever wanted was to work hard and get along with everyone. From that moment, I decided to hide my abilities and make an effort to stay unnoticed. When I shared this with Mary, her eyes welled up with tears. "You've been through so much, and yet you became my secretary and helped me like this. I don't even know how to thank you." Seeing her tears, I couldn't help but speak my mind. "That's because I like you, Mary." Mary responded to my sudden confession with a surprised "oh," her face quickly turning bright red. "I'm sorry if this feels sudden," I continued, "but when Bella wouldn't walk, and you helped me, I thought you were such a kind person for smiling at someone like me. And even after finding out you're Mr. Kennedy's daughter and the company's next CEO, you never changed. At work, I was the type of guy who blended into the background, barely noticed. Yet every time we met, Mary would always make the effort to greet me. Even after becoming her secretary, her presence in my life had grown immensely important. Today was no different. Seeing Miss Morgan mock Mary and deliberately put her in a tough spot made my anger boil over. "As your secretary, I know saying something like this might put you in a difficult position, and I'm sorry. But I'd like to be with you. Even if you turn me down, I'll still do my job properly, and I won't let it affect my behavior or—" Before I could finish, Mary interrupted me. "I won't say no. Absolutely not." Her voice was so loud, it drew the attention of those around us. We both bowed repeatedly, apologizing for the disturbance. Does that mean?" I asked cautiously. Mary, her face still bright red, nodded. "I like you too, Kyle." Mary's radiant smile was the brightest I had ever seen. From that moment, we became partners in both our personal and professional lives. Our relationship flourished, and a year after we started dating, we got married. We decided to celebrate our union with a wedding ceremony. "Oh no, what am I going to do?" "I'm so nervous," I muttered, pacing back and forth in the groom's waiting room. Natalie couldn't help but laugh at me. "Seriously? Why are you the one freaking out? That's pathetic. The star of the day is Mary, not you." She wasn't wrong, but nerves were nerves, and I couldn't help it. Which was more nerve-wracking, your Harvard entrance exam or this? For a moment, I almost said Harvard, but honestly, nothing compared to the pressure of this wedding. After all, just seeing my father-in-law, Mr. Kennedy, was nerve-wracking enough. "Definitely this," I admitted. "The wedding." Natalie burst out laughing. "Bella, did you hear that? Kyle says he's nervous. What a problem." Halt. Bella, being petted by Natalie, barked energetically in response. Then she came over to me, pressing against me as if to say, "Get it together." "Thanks, Bella. Not just for today, but for everything. Meeting Mary was all because of you." I gave Bella a thorough petting, and she responded enthusiastically, wagging her tail. Today, Bella was set to play a special role, not as a ring bearer, but as our ring dog. Bella, who had been the reason Mary and I first met, held a special place in both our hearts. Even now, whenever work gets overwhelming, Mary often sighs and says, "I just want to see Bella." Bella loves Mary just as much. Whenever we visit Natalie's place, she completely ignores me and jumps straight into Mary's arms. "Hey Kyle, it's time. Get out there. Is it all ready?" "All right. I'm nervous, but I'll do my best." "That's the spirit. I'll be watching." Natalie gave me a firm pat on the back and sent me off. Bella, too, nudged my leg as if to say, "You've got this." I went ahead to the chapel to wait for Mary. I was certain that even greater happiness lay ahead for us. There would undoubtedly be challenges, but I knew that together, Mary and I could handle anything. With that thought in mind, I stood there, waiting for the chapel doors to open. When they finally did, and I saw Mary standing there, I couldn't help but smile. "Really, how long do you intend to remain at headquarters? You simply run about the office without even having a desk. A high school graduate like you has no place here." I was shocked to see Emmy, the head of the department, sitting in the CEO's chair with a smug look when I opened the door to the CEO's office. She boasted about her Harvard degree and always treated me with contempt. "No, Amy, the chair you're sitting in is actually mine." "What are you discussing?" "No. Have you lost your mind because you don't fit in at headquarters?" "No, I really do mean it. I'm seated in the CEO's chair, which is mine. Could you just get out of the way?" She was then left slouched on the CEO's office floor after learning the truth. Her life was on the verge of collapse. Kevin Johnson is my name. My parents divorced soon after I was born, leaving me to be raised by a single mother. Their split was more a result of different ideals than a sour argument. We therefore didn't have a very straight relationship. My dad paid child support even after the divorce, and we continued to see each other on a regular basis. He was a dedicated individual who began discussing his work with me when I started middle school. As a child, I imagined that a lot of things can happen at a company while I was eating the slightly fancy dinners he treated me to. My interest in entering the workforce was also piqued by that. I gradually started talking to my dad about life's choices. He guarded me from a distance like a trustworthy figure. I started working for a trading company after high school. I asked my father if I should attend college. At the time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to study. My dad suggested that I begin working first when I brought this up to him. After middle school, he worked at a variety of jobs before attending college. "You'll only understand the real enjoyment of college after working and realizing what you need and what studies will enhance your skills," he said. "It would be a waste to go without a defined objective, and college tuition is not inexpensive." I decided to go into the workforce initially because Dad graciously offered to pay for my schooling if I ever decided to go. The trade company's local branch, where I was placed, had a wonderful atmosphere. Relationships were never a problem for me, even if I had to work late every day to finish new assignments. Over time, it felt like a club activity and wasn't too difficult because I was in my teens and had lots of energy. There was something new to learn and comprehend every day, which made it exciting. Considering that I might have simply gotten lost in college, I was thankful that I had heeded my father's counsel. I discovered more and more things I wanted to learn as I worked. For example, our business frequently conducted business abroad, which motivated me to study more French, or even other languages like Spanish or Chinese. I wanted to comprehend our company's and our clients' financial accounts, even though I worked in sales and wasn't very involved in overall business management. I considered studying accounting and business management as a result of this desire. I read introductory books I purchased from bookstores whenever work ended early. In those productive days, I've been working for 6 years now. A new female employee joined the company that year. Amy was her name. She had apparently graduated from Harvard University and was a foreigner from overseas. Her parents were both translators and diplomats. She was, of course, multilingual and invaluable to our trading business. She was what you would describe as an affluent, well-educated woman. Amy was as competent as the rumors had suggested, but she always seemed in a hurry, as if under pressure. It was like she had unknowingly labeled herself as someone who must excel. She was apparently polite to the employees around her, but I was a little wary because I felt that there was something hidden in her tone of voice that was condescending to them. My caution proved right when Amy's attitude towards me changed drastically one day. It was the day she learned I was from a single-parent family and only a high school graduate. Suddenly, her eyes turned cold, and she said, "Oh, you are from a single-parent family and just a high school grad. How did you even get into this company? Was it through connections or something?" Despite being from Harvard and bilingual, Amy was still a junior colleague to me. I didn't want to lose my temper with her, so I brushed off her remarks and let it slide, though I was surprised she dared to say that to me. After that incident, Amy's language skills and negotiation prowess were recognized, and she was soon transferred to the headquarters. Of course, she didn't leave a good impression on me, but she probably didn't care. Once Amy moved to the headquarters, peace returned to the branch where I worked. I enjoyed my daily work in a good environment. By this time, I had gotten used to my job, and my overtime hours had decreased. I was thinking about going to a university, maybe through online courses or night classes while continuing to work. So, I kept turning down offers to transfer to the headquarters. However, around my 10th year with the company, I could no longer refuse the transfer to headquarters. Saying goodbye to everyone at the branch who had nurtured me for 10 years, I got a bit emotional recalling the good and tough times since my high school graduation. Everyone at the branch was crying too, making me realize how great the environment had been. After the farewell party at the branch, on the day before my transfer, I had dinner with my father. He had lost quite a bit of weight since I last saw him. He wasn't suffering from any serious illness, but his aging worried me. Then my father made a request, but I'll talk about that later. The next day, my first day at the headquarters, started with greeting rounds. I went through a number of departments spread out across the head office and got to know everyone. Finally, though reluctantly, I went to greet Amy, who had become a department head. Well, you've come to headquarters. What can a high school grad from a single-parent family even do here? Come on, Amy, please go easy on me. Well, do your best, I suppose, she replied. Amy had become even more prickly over the nearly 10 years we hadn't met. Despite the struggles of working in a male-dominated company, looking down on others is not cool. I sighed. What bothered me about Amy was her tendency to belittle others based on things that were not of a person's nature, like being a high school grad or from a single-parent family. Amy didn't see who I really was. She didn't care about my 10 years of hard work and what I had learned in this company. Fortunately, I worked in a special department, so I didn't have to see Amy often. But whenever we met at meetings, she would find some way to prod at me. "Oh, Kevin, there you are. Did you even understand today's meeting? Being a high school grad." Yes, I did, obviously. Besides, I was the one who prepared today's meeting materials. "Kevin, are you still at headquarters? I thought you would have gone back to the branch by now, or perhaps been assigned to a subsidiary." "No, I came to headquarters for a mission. I wouldn't just go back to the branch so easily." I never talked back in reality, but I always had a retort in my mind. One day, I had to visit Amy's department for some work. "Emily, what is this translation? We can send such a document to our clients." "I'm sorry, Amy, it's my first time preparing a document in French." Amy was scolding a female employee in her department, making her kneel on the floor. "Amy, this is too much," I said, rushing over and helping the kneeling employee stand up. "Kneeling is not okay. Look, she's about to cry." When I reprimanded Amy, she snatched the documents I was about to hand her. It's her incompetence that's the problem, she said angrily, tossing the documents onto her desk. Thank you. The scolded employee thanked me, but Amy just turned to her desk without a glance at us. The rest of the department was working uneasily, watching Amy's mood. The atmosphere was far from pleasant. Don't yield too much, okay? I warned the employee, but she just shrugged her shoulders. It was about half a year into my days of running around the headquarters when I was called to the CEO's office. I adjusted my tie, thinking the time had finally come. I did a full body check in the restroom, polished my shoes, took a deep breath, and headed to the CEO's office. When I opened the door, there was Amy sitting arrogantly in a chair. Amy, what are you doing here? I asked. Aha, Kevin, what brings you here? She replied smugly. Well, I was called by the CEO. What about you, Amy? By the way, how long are you going to be at the headquarters? You're just running around without a desk. A high school grad like you doesn't belong here. No, the chair you were sitting in. That's my chair. What are you talking nonsense? Have you gone crazy because you don't fit in here? No, I mean the chair you're sitting in. That's my chair. The executive vice president's chair. Can you move? You're not the executive vice president. What are you talking about? Just then, the CEO walked in. Amy, what are you doing playing around here? Do you have business with Kevin? The executive vice president, Mr. Wilson, the CEO said, Kevin is really the executive vice president. Not just the executive vice president, he's the CEO. From today, Kevin is the CEO. Mr. Wilson, the former CEO and now chairman, slowly said, Yes, I was transferred here half a year ago as an executive vice president, and today I was called to the CEO's office to receive my appointment as COO. Moreover, Mr. Wilson is my father. Although we have different last names due to my parents' divorce, he is undoubtedly my father. He started this company while my mother was pregnant with me. He even secretly set up the company and started attending college without consulting my mother. After I was born, he focused solely on work in college, neglecting family and parenting. My mother, frustrated by his lack of communication and involvement, filed for divorce. Since the divorce, my father has dedicated himself to work, but recently, his health has been declining. Thankfully, no major illness has been found, but years of overworking have led to minor health issues. He decided it was time to step back and wanted to hand over his company to me. That's why I've been so busy at headquarters for the last 6 months, preparing to take over as CEO. I had always planned to eventually take over as CEO, so I was somewhat prepared. My initial assignment to the branch office was to ensure I was familiar with its operations before becoming CEO. Amy, there should be a company-wide email about the announcement. Check it. A notification sound chimed. I prompted Amy to check her email. The email announced Mr. Wilson's resignation as CEO and his new role as chairman, my promotion from executive vice president to COO, and also Amy's assignment to a subsidiary. Amy is indeed capable, but her attitude towards her subordinates has garnered poor reviews. Apart from making an employee kneel, there have been various complaints about her behavior. When I prompted Amy to read the mail, she seemed to understand everything. I was also the president's apprentice, working on internal investigations. She continued to belittle me and yelled at her subordinate in front of me. The next CEO collapsed on the spot and couldn't move for a while. Then a woman's voice said, "Sorry I'm late," and in came Emily. She was the female employee Amy had scolded into kneeling the other day. Emily had worked for one of our client companies but resigned last month. Mr. Wilson, our CEO, had noticed her detailed attentiveness and clear documentation as a sales assistant and had hunted her when she decided to quit. Having lost her parents early, Emily had been involved in various jobs since graduating middle school. She was working at a restaurant when she was headhunted by her previous company's president. Despite excelling in secretarial and reception duties as well as a sales assistant, Rumors circulated that she might be the president's mistress due to the nature of her recruitment. Nevertheless, she bravely handled her tasks until she was falsely accused of misconduct and resigned last month. Fed up, Emily was apprehensive about joining our company, worried about facing hostility again. But Mr. Wilson persuaded her, promising a better experience. Emily was set to become my secretary, starting today. Amy, still sitting on the floor, glared at Emily and then left the office. It must have been hard for her, but her harsh treatment of subordinates as a manager led to her transfer. She didn't make any excuses, likely understanding her own mistakes. Years passed since I became the CEO, and my father became the chairman. Initially, I was anxious about how things would go, but thanks to my father, Emily, and our employees' support, we've managed to maintain our performance. It's not just about maintaining, but I'd like to improve our performance. However, sustaining it for the first few years is an achievement worth acknowledging. Emily has been a great help in her secretarial duties. Emily's knack for anticipating needs, evident from how she was favored by her previous CEO, is now indispensable for me. I hardly manage business trips without her. Speaking of which, I recalled Amy from the subsidiary. Initially, she struggled with a bad reputation there too, but eventually, her reputation began to improve. Curious about how she had changed, I called her back. To my surprise, she had transformed into a pleasant woman, as if a burden had been lifted off her. The condescending attitude and patronizing manner that had marred her charm were completely gone. Moreover, her sharp intellect, honed at Harvard, remained intact. She started receiving praise from colleagues and no longer attracted any negative feedback. Feeling confident about her transformation, I promoted her to a department manager. Sometime after her promotion, I encountered her at a diner during lunch. "Mr. Johnson," she said. Instead of being resentful, Amy graciously offered me a seat opposite her. "Amy, you've really improved at work. Everyone is grateful." No, I'm embarrassed. How can I apologize for my disrespect towards you? No need to apologize. Who you are now is what matters. I was always trying too hard. I know it sounds like an excuse, but my mother was a high school graduate. She was half Mexican, working in a pub where she met my father and got married. My father always ridiculed her for her education. Watching that, I vowed not to become like my mother. I thought not going to college was the worst thing. Desperate to add to my educational qualifications, I studied hard and got into Harvard, but I was an underachiever there, which only made me more obsessed with my education. Even as an underachiever, graduating from Harvard earned me admiration, which I enjoyed. Amy started talking as I settled down, eating my lunch and listening quietly. "I'm grateful you sent me to the subsidiary. My mother, living near it, had separated from my dad. After I graduated, while at the subsidiary, I lived with my mother. She hadn't divorced, but had a relieved expression in separating from my dad. I asked her things I never could before, like if she regretted not going to college or not wanting more education. She said she had no regrets. She enjoys her translation work now, even without a college degree. In fact, she regretted marrying my dad, who belittled her for her education." Amy continued to talk, even as lunch cooled. "I might have been a bit envious of you. I saw my mother being ridiculed and got too caught up in education. Despite struggling at Harvard, which I had worked so hard to get into, I couldn't leave because of its prestige and finally graduated. Yet you, despite being so capable, didn't go to college and even considered online courses when work settled down, which seemed so relaxed to me. I couldn't understand it. It was frustrating and enviable. That's why I maintained such a rude attitude towards you. Looking back, it seems nonsensical and unjust, but back then, I was desperate to uphold myself. Education was everything, and I couldn't comprehend someone like you who thought differently. I'm truly sorry for that." "Look at me," I said. Amy was crying. I had no idea you had such a traumatic experience, Amy. I always thought you walked a sunny path of a late success. Before I knew it, I was engrossed in Amy's story, setting aside my meal. It's true that appearances can be deceiving, and I felt sorry for Amy, who had been so constrained by her education. The changed Amy diligently accumulated achievements for the company and carefully nurtured her subordinates. Recognizing her efforts, I promoted her from department manager to executive vice president. She's now an indispensable member of the team for me. Of course, Emily is also working hard as my secretary. She's attentive, meticulous in her work, and I rely heavily on her now. Amy and Emily occasionally clash over work strategies, but they generally maintain a good relationship. After learning that people tend to speak their minds more freely during meals, I make a point of having lunch with not just Amy, but also Emily. My father, now the chairman, teases me, saying, "You sure are popular with the ladies," but it's not about that. It's purely about understanding my subordinates' honest opinions to facilitate smooth operations. Speaking of which, my parents have been dining together more often since I transferred to the headquarters. My mother initially complained, "What now, after all this time?" But she seems fulfilled knowing my father has always cared for us, and my appointment as CEO perhaps filled a void for her. Lately, she's even started saying, maybe I could remarry that man again. As for myself, I've decided to start attending university through an online program this spring. Now that I'm more accustomed to the role of CEO and clearly see my areas for improvement, I believe university will be very rewarding. Hearing this, Emily asked if she could also enroll in an online high school course. My answer was, of course, yes. Age doesn't matter when it comes to learning. There's always a time in everyone's life when it's the right moment to learn. For Emily and me, that time is now. I jokingly asked Amy, "Why don't you go back to college too?" She declined, saying, "I don't want to lose Harvard as my final all later." But if she ever wants to learn more, I think she should go back to college, even as a non-degree student. We can all educate ourselves at any age. It's about receiving education when it's needed. With these thoughts, I'm about to welcome my first spring as a university freshman. I went up to the attractive woman I always saw on the train, who was holding a white cane. She tensed, then turned her face to me as I plucked up the strength to speak to her. I never would have predicted the startling response that came out of her mouth. The man who was bothering her turned out to be the same one who was causing me a lot of problems at work. I happened to be there when it happened. I'm generally hesitant and lack confidence, but I felt I couldn't just watch. I plucked up the strength to tell her I was sorry. She must be blind or visually challenged because she is holding a white cane. How could you possibly harm someone in that way? You raised your hand against her, and I saw it. I'm 41 years old, and my name is Benjamin. My employer, Foster Foods, runs well-known cafes around the nation, including Roasting Village and Foster Beans. Fortunately, I was recently acknowledged for my efforts and given the position of leader of the new product development team for the next year. I shouldn't feel this way at my age, but I'm not the most self-assured person. Even though I've known for some time that I need to change, this new opportunity made me think, this is my chance to really turn things around. I'm not very close to my coworkers at the moment. I thought I'd start by strengthening the bonds within our product development team and getting to know my teammates better, because I always feel a little out of place and reluctant to join the group. Is it just me, or does the fact that I'm still unmarried make me feel excluded? No, I don't believe it to be true. I had someone once too. Sarah, who was 3 years older than me, was the woman I vowed to marry. She would claim that, like a loyal future wife, I would bring out her nurturing side and force her into my life. I was in my 20s at the time, and I wasn't too bothered. One day, she abruptly requested to end the relationship. You simply aren't trustworthy enough. I don't sense any genuine affection from you, and you're constantly passive. I became concerned about getting married to you. I was astonished by what she said. I had assumed that we would get married without any issues, but she abruptly changed her mind. Sarah became even more dissatisfied upon witnessing my clumsy response and departed. I've struggled ever since to get over my uneasiness around ladies, or actually humans in general. The department's employees frequently go out to eat or drink together after work, but I always go straight home alone. I return to my apartment after an hour-long train ride. It's the only spot where I can really unwind. I am one of 5 people on our new product development team. Our department leader, Henry, requested that we concentrate on creating new desserts and pleasant cold beverages as summer draws near. I want to live up to Henry's expectations as the selected team leader. I was prepared to put my all into it, but nearly at once, something went wrong. Benjamin's desperation is excessive. It's really awkward. Kevin, a member of my team, is open about his distaste for me. Even though he's always making fun of me, I want to cooperate with everyone now that I'm in charge. I ignored his remark and addressed the gathering. Let's work hard on this new product development. The group looked at one another with a knowing look. I ended up bending my head a little because I felt uncomfortable. Oh, I see. Anticipating it. They all started laughing at my contrite manner. Friendly laughter didn't feel like it. They seemed to be laughing at me more than anything else. My aims were becoming more and more misguided. This is not good. A leader such as he. Kevin mumbled, "No thanks," so I could hear him. I was embarrassed that I was unable to come up with a response to his hurtful remarks. He then began to absolutely shun me. Even when I welcomed him, he blatantly displayed his animosity and disregarded me. Finally, the day came for our team's first presentation. I'll be in the meeting room on the 3rd floor, so please gather there. I called out and headed there ahead of everyone. I wondered what ideas everyone would bring. Excited, I set up the tea in the meeting room and waited. But even after 15 minutes, no one showed up. Thinking something might have happened, I went to check, only to find the 4 of them still seated at their desks, chatting away. At first, I thought they were just enjoying themselves until I realized it was a session of badmouthing me. Man, making us all gather in the meeting room. What a drag. The others chuckled. I felt a pang of quiet hurt. Benjamin's usually so dull and gloomy, and now he's suddenly all gum-ho. It's exhausting just watching him. Remarks like that started coming up too. Is that really how they see me? The pain made me quietly withdraw. Since that day, I've been losing sleep, constantly thinking about how I can get along with everyone. One day after work, I decided to take the plunge. If you're free, would you like to grab a drink? I'd love to get to know everyone better, I suggested, proposing a social outing. Everyone looked at me. Maybe this could work. There's a new place nearby that serves great seafood. How about we go there, have some good food, and have an open chat? That's what we call drinking harassment, Kevin responded with a cold stare. I tried to explain that wasn't my intent, but he wouldn't listen. Oh well, we don't have to drink. Just enjoying a good meal together is fine too, right? Silence filled the air. No one agreed. Feeling defeated, I grabbed my bag. Well, I'll think of another idea sometime. I bowed my head and left the office, sighing at how poorly things were going. Then, on the train ride home, I stumbled upon something shocking. A message notification popped up on my free chat app, so I opened it casually. It was from one of the team members. Having a great time with the team, read the message with a photo of everyone. But me, looking happy together. A classic wrong recipient message. The place was, of all places, that seafood restaurant I had suggested. So, they really do dislike me. I slumped in disappointment. The shock was too much. The next day, I stopped Kevin to try and talk. Predictably, he ignored me, so I turned to Kimberly, the member who had accidentally sent the message. Look, I know it's awkward to ask, but I can't figure out why everyone seems to hate me. If there's something I can fix, I'd really like to know. Could you tell me?" Maybe she felt sorry seeing how desperate I was, so Kimberly spoke in a low voice. Her tone made it clear she was angry. "I think Kevin has every right to be upset. It's because of things like that you lose everyone's trust." I had no idea what she meant, so I just stared blankly at her. "Benjamin, you're seducing girls in their 20s, aren't you? I mean, you pretend to be all quiet, but there's talk that you're actually a pretty shady guy." "What girls in their 20s? Me? No way. I'd never do something like that." It seemed like there was a huge misunderstanding. I desperately tried to explain that they had the wrong person, but no one believed me. After all, Kevin was confidently claiming he had evidence, so no one would even listen to my side. Evidence? What could he possibly have? At least now, I understood why people looked at me like I was some kind of creep, but I had no idea how to clear this up. I was at a loss. After gathering some information, I discovered the truth. Kevin has a much younger sister. Her boyfriend has the same name as me and lives in the same area. In other words, Kevin mistakenly believes his sister is dating me. I sighed deeply. His sister is still in her 20s, and if he thinks his sister's boyfriend is an unimpressive guy in his 40s like me, it's no wonder Kevin is upset. Apparently, he's strongly opposed to the relationship, but I have nothing to do with it. This is all just a misunderstanding. In fact, it's a nuisance. I need to explain this clearly. I set out to find Kevin and clear up the misunderstanding. Determined, I looked around the office for him, but he was nowhere to be found. Apparently, he was off stirring up more trouble. He had gone directly to Henry to make his case. I think Kimberly would be a better fit for team leader than Benjamin. She's popular with the team, and remember her coffee jelly creation that became such a hit. Compared to her, Benjamin has no track record and zero support. Henry looked troubled by what Kevin said. He replied that he'd think it over and urged Kevin to return to the office later. Henry called me in. "You have to get the team together. I promoted you because I thought you could handle it. Don't let me down." Feeling defeated, I took the train home with a heavy heart. Then I remembered it was Tuesday. Lately, there was something I looked forward to every Tuesday and Friday. A beautiful, fair-skinned woman with a white cane boards the same train car as me. For some reason, when there's an open seat, she always ends up sitting beside me. I don't know why she chooses to sit next to me each time, but really, any reason is fine. It simply makes me happy. She's like a breath of fresh air in my difficult daily life. I found myself wondering if I'd see her again today. Even though it's only 2 stops, just seeing her on those Tuesdays and Fridays lightens my mood a bit. The day of the second new product presentation arrived. I worried that no one would show up again, like last time, but this time Henry would be there, so at least they wouldn't boycott my idea. For a new iced coffee with mint chocolate flavoring, the reaction was ruthless. This is the worst thing I've ever tasted, and it's so off-putting. There's no way this will sell. The criticism was brutal. I chuckled bitterly at their harshness. Instead, Kevin's iced coffee paired with sweet bean jelly was praised as a masterpiece. The bitterness of the coffee and the cold, refreshing taste goes perfectly with the sweet red bean paste. This will be a hit for sure. Everyone echoed that sentiment. Henry looked at me with a disappointed expression. Then Kimberly, the team's hitmaker, presented her new dessert idea, an almond jelly parfait. This one also received high praise. After the presentation, Henry muttered, "Maybe I need to reconsider a few things." I felt completely sidelined. I regretted not being able to meet Henry's expectations. Would Kimberly end up taking over as the team leader after all? Maybe it would be better if I just stepped aside. On the train ride home, I was lost in thought when the woman with the white cane boarded. She sat down beside me, just like always. For some reason, I suddenly felt like talking to her, so I gathered my courage and spoke up. You always sit next to me, don't you? She flinched in surprise. Can you actually see? She tensed up, then turned her face toward me. To my shock, she responded with something I hadn't anticipated. What do you mean by that? Are you suggesting I'm just pretending to have a disability? She was visibly getting angrier. Oh no, that wasn't my intention at all. I quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. But don't you realize how offensive that question was? You're absolutely right. That was thoughtless of me. Our exchange had drawn attention on the train. I decided to get off at her usual stop to continue apologizing. There are people watching here, so I'll get off at the next stop. Please let me keep apologizing, if you don't mind. It's your usual stop after all. She gave a silent nod. Once we were on the platform, I launched into a desperate explanation. Really, it wasn't that I doubted you or anything. It's just that you always sit next to me, and I couldn't help but wonder why. But I see now that I made you uncomfortable, and I'm truly sorry. I gathered every possible word of apology and kept apologizing to her. Gradually, her demeanor began to soften. I understand. I overreacted too. I got a bit heated. Relieved, I exhaled deeply. I'm Ashley. She introduced herself. I went ahead and gave my name as well. I'm Benjamin. Her eyebrows raised slightly. Oh, is something wrong? No. Ashley smiled. Your question about why I always sit next to you, it's because of the scent. Surprised, I instinctively lifted my arm and took a sniff. I ended up making a loud sniffing sound, so she probably realized what I was doing. Ashley laughed softly. It's not a bad smell. It's the sea aroma. I love coffee, and every time I sit next to you, there's this wonderful scent. I sighed in relief. I work for a company that operates coffee chains, actually. Places like Roasting Village and Foster's Beans. Oh, there's a Foster's Beans near my place. I'm quite the regular there. The tension in the air eased. Ah, thank goodness, I thought. That was the reason, and my question was answered. I was genuinely happy to talk to Ashley. I felt a bit giddy, but unfortunately, Kevin happened to witness this scene. Since he thought I was dating his sister, he flew into a rage. Benjamin, you scumbag. I told you to stay away from my sister. He suddenly lunged at me, yelling. His loud outburst startled Ashley beside me, causing her to stumble. In his agitation, Kevin didn't even notice her white cane. He ended up bumping into her. Ashley fell to her hands on the floor, angry that she hadn't moved out of his way. Kevin started hurling insults at her. What the hell are you doing? I put a hand on Ashley's shoulder as she crouched on the floor. Are you okay? She sighed, relieved. Yes. She looked pale. She must have been terrified. I glared at Kevin. That was uncalled for. Only then did Kevin notice her white cane. Oh, so she's blind. Move out of the way. You should be taking the train when it's not crowded. I angrily rebuked him. How can you say something like that? What was that? We glared at each other. I had reached my limit. I didn't care if this got me removed from the team leader position or kicked off the team. This time, I was determined to say everything I had kept bottled up. I was furious that Kevin had insulted Ashley, who had nothing to do with this. Apologized to her. She's holding a white cane, meaning she has a visual impairment. How could you bring yourself to hurt someone like that? Oh, shut up. You pretend to be a feminist when it suits you, but you're just a sleazeball hitting on women. Don't you dare mess with my sister. I've tried to tell you many times that it's a misunderstanding. Why won't you listen? Kevin looked shocked that I was responding so directly. You're acting totally different. Usually, you're such a wimp, never saying a thing. I didn't think you could talk back like this. You're just trying to impress her because she's pretty, right? He shot a smug look at Ashley. I firmly told him that this was an entirely separate matter. It was true I had noticed her before, but now was not the time to be talking about that. You're mistaken, Kevin. I'm not the one dating your sister. I have proof. You said your birthday was on the weekend, didn't you? My sister also mentions celebrating her boyfriend's birthday on that same day. I hesitated, lost for words. With the same name, living in the same area, and sharing the same birthday, I could see how it all seemed like an unbelievable coincidence, even to me. Kevin scoffed. See? You can't even deny it, and now you're trying to go after this woman too. You just see my sister as an obstacle, don't you? Unforgivable. I don't know about the birthday, but I'm telling you there's nothing between me and your sister, or between me and Ashley. I don't trust you. Break up with my sister. I suddenly realized that everyone on the platform was watching us, and someone even asked, "Shall we call the station staff?" It was only natural that everyone was watching, given how loud the commotion had become. I felt my face flush. Just then, Ashley, who had been silent up until now, suddenly spoke up. That voice. I've heard it before. You're the brother or friend of mine, aren't you? Kevin looked bewildered as she addressed him. My name is Ashley. My friend's name is Natalie. You're her brother, right? She had perfectly guessed Kevin's sister's name. His eyes widened in surprise. Yes, my sister's name is Natalie, but Kevin looked skeptical, tilting his head. Prove that you're actually her friend. Ashley gave a slight smile. Natalie talks like this, doesn't she? She began mimicking her. I couldn't tell, but it must have been a spot-on impression. Kevin looked astonished. She has this slightly babyish, nasal way of talking. It's a unique voice, hard to mimic, but you really got it right. I remember because I hear it all the time. Ashley looked a bit proud of herself. Then she added, I even have a photo. She showed her phone. It was a picture of her and Kevin's sister standing side by side. That's Natalie, I said. I see. But what kind of friend are you to her? All her friends are usually young and flashy. Kevin, arms crossed, asked her a question. Ashley was clearly older than his sister. In fact, she looked about the same age as Kevin himself. I met Natalie at an English conversation class. Although I can't see, I have an active personality and love trying new things. That's right. My sister loves traveling abroad, so she takes English classes. Kevin murmured. Now he understood that Ashley was indeed a friend of his sister's. But he was still puzzled as to how Ashley had recognized his voice. Ashley, where did you hear my voice, and how do you remember it? Do you really want to know? You're making this sound like an interrogation. Ashley grew exasperated with Kevin's persistence. Still, she kindly explained. Kevin's sister knows that Ashley has an exceptional sense of hearing, so when they communicate, she often uses various audio recordings. For example, she plays her own videos, like one from a beach trip. Ashley can hear the sound of waves, the ocean breeze, people's voices, and even the voices of her family members. Ashley gets to listen to these sounds firsthand, and then Kevin's sister adds explanations to help her understand. Natalie is very kind. She introduces me to so many new things. Apparently, some of those videos included her brother Kevin's voice. At this point, Kevin finally apologized to Ashley. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were my sister's friend. That was rude of me, but I'm not apologizing to Benjamin. Kevin remained firm. This guy's been leading my sister on. That's absolutely not true, I insisted firmly. Kevin turned to Ashley. Ashley, have you ever heard anything about Natalie's boyfriend? Isn't it this guy? He asked, pointing at me. This guy is way too old to be messing around with a girl in her 20s. There's something really off about him, and he's my senior at work, a guy with no ambition and nothing respectable about him. Of course, as her brother, I'd be completely against it, Kevin declared. Ashley chuckled softly. What's so funny? Kevin asked. He's not Natalie's boyfriend, Ashley explained. I felt an immense wave of relief, unable to keep a smile from my face. But Kevin's frustration only grew. What? How would you know that? Kevin asked. The scent is different. The scent again. I was amazed by Ashley's incredible sense of smell. Wait, Ashley, have you actually met Natalie's boyfriend? Kevin asked, leaning in with interest. No, I haven't met him, she explained. But I know because I've met Natalie after their dates, and she had a lovely scent on her. My heart skipped a beat. A lovely scent? What could that mean? It was unmistakably the smell of shampoo or hair products. I'm sure her boyfriend is a hairstylist. But right now, both Benjamin and Kevin smell like coffee. Kevin was taken aback. Amazing. I find the smell of coffee comforting, so that's why I always sit next to Benjamin. He's been wondering why, but I knew from the start that he worked at a coffee chain. So, I can say with confidence that this is a case of mistaken identity encouraged by Ashley's reliable testimony. I felt a surge of courage having witnessed Ashley's incredible abilities. Kevin was momentarily speechless. Plus, Natalie often confides in me about her struggles with you, Ashley continued. She's been worried, saying that recently, you two have been fighting a lot. She's concerned because you two were once so close. She wonders if it's her fault for causing you trouble. What Natalie said caused Kevin and me to both feel a pang of emotion at her words. Hey, Ashley, sorry for the wait. To our surprise, it was none other than Kevin's sister, Natalie, who appeared. Huh? What are you doing here, big brother? Kevin stammered. Well, what's going on? Ashley smiled. It turned out she had planned to meet Kevin's sister today. What a coincidence. Kevin was flustered and at a loss for words. Meanwhile, his sister casually dropped a surprising revelation. Yeah, dating an older guy just didn't work for me. We broke up. What? With Benjamin here? Kevin pointed at me. This time, it was Natalie's turn to look surprised. Ha, who's this? I've never seen him before. See, right? I said. Natalie, we're complete strangers, aren't we? Yeah, pretty much, she replied casually. Kevin turned beet red and bowed deeply to me. I'm so sorry. Hearing the whole story, Natalie also apologized for the trouble her brother's misunderstanding had caused me. What were you even thinking, big brother? My bad. My ex's name is Benjamin, yes, but that's just the name he uses for work. His real name is different. It's a trend among star hairstylists to use alternate names. I glanced at Ashley. Her face lit up as she spoke, so Natalie's ex really was a hairstylist. Sorry, Ashley. I hadn't mentioned it, but it doesn't matter now. We broke up anyway. Big brother, Kevin said, seeing the stern look on his sister's face. Begging you to take out your frustrations on others because of me, that's the worst. I'm disappointed in you. But birthdays and everything. It was such a rare coincidence. I really thought it was Benjamin, so persistent. I couldn't have celebrated with him on his actual birthday. He has weekdays off, remember? Oh, right. When it came to his sister, Kevin seemed to lose all common sense. I was just worried. Don't talk to me anymore, she snapped. Kevin, elbowed aside by his sister, looked utterly dejected. Ashley and I watched, unable to hold back our laughter. Kevin looked completely defeated after being cut off by his sister. Then a shocking revelation surfaced within the new product development team. The iced coffee with sweet bean jelly that Kevin had presented turned out to be a copy of a competitor's product. Henry was furious and removed Kevin from the team. Rumor had it he'd be transferred to a subsidiary in the next round of reassignments. Kevin lost his confidence and became a completely different, much gloomier person. Once the center of attention, he now spent his time in a corner of the office, with copier or maintenance as his only real task. As for my new creation, the mint chocolate-flavored iced coffee, since that incident, Ashley and I had grown closer, and she helped me come up with an improved version. We added a scoop of mint chocolate ice cream to the iced coffee. Through trial and error, adjusting the blend and roast of the coffee beans, we arrived at a fresh new taste. With Ashley's encouragement, I finally worked up the courage to present it. Wow, this is actually really good. Even Kimberly, the team's hitmaker, gave it her stamp of approval. Henry complimented me with a nod, saying, "Well done." The new drink was soon approved to be launched as a product at Foster Beans. When I shared the news with Ashley, she was thrilled for me. Though it had been a bumpy road, the misunderstandings with my team were finally cleared up, and we were working together in a positive atmosphere. And now, my goal is to create a coffee that someday Ashley herself might call her favorite. When I was on my own vacation, I met her. On the ferry, we were sat close to one another, and we later met up again at one of the island's few tourist attractions. She stated, "Let's get married," when we reconnected. Zach is my name. I work in a publishing company's editorial department and turned 32 this year. I enjoy my job and have no problem working overtime or through the night. Regretfully, the body is truthful. The responsibilities of my employment were too much for my stamina to handle. To make things worse, after a long-time editor retired, the workload unexpectedly rose, and I, a mid-level employee, was given more responsibility. I passed out at work one day. I had to stay in the hospital for around a week after the doctor diagnosed me with stress and overwork. Fortunately, my somewhat kind employer was able to send a notice that coincided with my release day, despite the frenetic nature of my work. It seems that I also needed a break, according to my attending physician. I had a 6-month vacation for the first time since I began working. At first unsure of how to spend it, I chose to travel to both the country's northern and southernmost regions. Alaska was the northernmost region that I initially captured. After that, I made my way directly to Key West, Florida. Catalina Island, the southernmost portion, is reachable from Miami via ferry, but the ferry was delayed by heavy weather, and I spent 4 days stranded there. The ferry could finally leave on the morning of the 5th day. The sea remained somewhat choppy. I took some motion sickness medication because I was anxious, even though I generally have a strong stomach. The ferry wobbled a lot, as was to be expected. In order to prevent seasickness, I sat by the window, pushed my forehead against the glass, and tightly closed my eyes. I saw that the woman seated next to me appeared ill around 20 minutes before we arrived at the island. "Are you all right? Do you want to take some medication for motion sickness?" I gave her a glass of water. Weakly, she said, "I'm fine." However, she didn't appear well at all. I offered her my window seat, thinking that could be helpful. She mimicked my earlier attempt to feel better by pressing her forehead on the glass. Her collar was slightly open, exposing her fair chest, and she was clearly uncomfortable. I turned aside awkwardly when I realized I was staring. I assisted her in getting off the ferry when we arrived at the island. As soon as she got off the ramp, she sat on the ground, unsteady and unsteady. According to her, the ground is the best, as she lay down there. "Are you okay?" I crouched next to her, worried. Still unsteady, she was able to sit up. "Many thanks. This time was difficult, yet you came to my rescue. Thank you." Her head was lowered courteously. The scent of shampoo wafted from her long hair as it flowed over her shoulders. She brushed the sand from her back and said, "Here on vacation?" I gave a nod. She said indifferently, "I see." I had to leave even though I wanted to stay and talk more. "All well, I'll leave then." "Are you certain you're good?" She responded with a full-faced smile. Regretfully, I parted ways with her at the harbor. I really wanted to talk more, but didn't have the courage. Feeling pathetic, I tried to enjoy the vacation. After returning to the harbor, I arrived at my reserved bed and breakfast. Catalina Island is small. You could cycle around the entire island. The next day, I explored the island by rented bike. Sadly, the weather wasn't clear, and the sea seemed rough. The ferry from Miami was likely canceled again. Because of this, there weren't many tourists, and it felt like time moved slowly. I headed for the southernmost monument of America. Passing through a winding, snake-like road, I saw the monument. There were no buildings around, just the sounds of waves, wind, and occasional birds. The wind was strong. I closed my eyes for a moment. When I opened them, I saw someone by the monument waving at me. My heart skipped a beat. "Thank you for yesterday," she shouted over the wind. It wasn't a mistake. The girl from the ferry was waving at me. I refrained from running and approached her slowly. "How did you know I'd be here?" I asked. "What other places are there to see around here?" she replied with a smile. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I thanked her as she introduced herself. "I'm Nancy." She handed me a package wrapped in newspaper. "This is for your help yesterday. You haven't had lunch yet, have you?" The package felt heavy. Not many diners are open now, right? I thought you might be hungry. Opening it, I found sandwiches. I felt a warmth in my chest, realizing she must have made it for me. "Thank you. I was getting a bit hungry," I said, smiling. She handed me a water bottle. We sat a little away from the monument and opened the lunchbox. Nancy casually picked up one of the sandwiches. They looked like typical homemade Southern American-style sandwiches. Nancy, munching on her sandwich before me, looked happy. "Is your family from this island?" I asked. She replied, "No." She seemed to have come relying on a friend living on the island. She said it had been a long time since she visited. That's when I noticed her ring shining on her left ring finger. My mood suddenly dropped. Making a lunchbox and waiting for me, it's easy to misunderstand. But she was flaunting evidence of being a married woman on her finger. It was proof that she had no interest in me. As my spirits dropped, the weather also started to deteriorate. Nancy was looking seriously at the increasingly rough sea. Maybe she was worried about the return ferry. If the sea gets rough, it will destroy this amazing scenery. I, who wanted to spend time gazing at the beautiful sea, wondered if Nancy felt the same and spoke up. Her response was something I didn't expect. Nancy said, "I hope it gets rougher," and smiled, hoping for a ferry cancellation due to rough seas. But I noticed her eyes weren't smiling. It felt like she had some secret, like she was afraid someone might come to the island by ferry. Maybe she ran away to this island. I stealthily looked at her anxious face. I wanted to say something to cheer her up, but no words came to mind. "Well, I'm going home." "It looks like it's going to rain," she said, staring out at the sea, now rough and turbulent. Nancy stood up and spoke those words. All I could do was nod in agreement, murmuring, "Yes, true." Despite Nancy's wishes, the next day was bright and sunny. The sea was calm. Almost instinctively, I opened my cell phone to check the ferry schedules. It seemed they were all running from the first trip in the morning. That someone whom she did not want might be coming to this island on the ferry. Thinking about it started to make me anxious too. To shake off the anxiety, I decided to go for a walk after breakfast. The sun was much more intense compared to yesterday. While wandering aimlessly around the island, I could hear a man and a woman arguing. Without much thought, I headed in the direction of the voices. The scene was in front of a small house. There was a flashy, flamboyant guy raising his voice at someone. Nancy was standing in front of him with a sullen expression. Apparently, this man was Nancy's husband. I realized this must be the unwelcome someone that she was avoiding. Something must have happened, and Nancy had run away from her husband. Facing her loud, furious husband, Nancy remained cold. I couldn't intervene in a marital spat, so I decided to quietly leave the place. I'm telling you, I've had enough. I can't stand being hit or abused by you anymore. Nancy's voice, which was calm initially, was getting increasingly louder. Hearing her speak about being regularly abused, I stopped in my tracks. If her husband was violent towards Nancy, I felt I had to intervene. Just shut up and come back home. You are making me chase you all the way out here. Her husband's shouting became louder and louder. I suddenly noticed a flashy woman wearing sunglasses sitting in a car that he apparently drove here in. She was watching the quarreling pair from the car, looking bored. You came all the way here. What were you thinking, bringing your affair partner to take your wife back? Planning a romantic getaway on the side? Nancy pointed at the car as she spoke. I see. The woman in the car seemed to be the husband's mistress. Things were starting to feel complicated. That's it. Please, let's get a divorce. At this word, her husband reacted. His face turned bright red, and he tried to drag Nancy by her arm toward the car. It hurts. Let me go. Are you planning to lock me up again? I'm not a pet. Let go of me. You should just wait for me at home and shut up. Don't think there's any more happiness in this world. I couldn't just stand there and watch. I had to step in between them and knock his hand away. He suddenly gave me a suspicious glare as I interrupted. Leave her alone. She doesn't want this, I said to him, shielding Nancy behind me. He clicked his tongue. Who are you? I replied that I was her friend. I told him I had heard their conversation, and that it's wrong to forcefully take her home when she's refusing to go. What the heck? Aren't you having an affair too? Do you think you are in a position to say anything about my affairs? Apparently, he misunderstood me as Nancy's lover. He laughed, making fun of Nancy. Moreover, he began berating her. This is what you get with such a flirty woman. Don't speak so ill of her. I couldn't keep calm anymore seeing how he insulted her. He reached over my shoulder and grabbed Nancy's hair. Nancy, being pulled forcefully by her hair, almost toppled forward. It hurts. Let me go. He pushed me aside and tried to take Nancy away. To be clear, I'm not the fighting type. I'm terrible at confrontations. But this was not the time to back down. I got up and took Nancy back just before she was made to get into the car. I quarreled with her husband next to the car. Nancy stepped in between us to separate us. I am divorcing you. This time, it was my turn to be shielded by Nancy. With her arms spread out, she stared him down while shielding me behind her. What will you do after divorcing? Marry this guy? He said with a mocking tone. The next moment, Nancy turned around, smiling warmly at me. Looking into my eyes, she said, "Let's get married." I was taken aback, but the words that came out were, "Yes, gladly." I was astounded by our exchange, as if we were in a fast food restaurant. But it seemed my reply was the right answer for Nancy. She hugged me around the neck with a big smile, saying, "Thank you. Did you hear that? I've fallen for this man, so I want a divorce. I've never met such a kind person. I can't be with you anymore." Clinging to my neck, Nancy turned around and yelled back at him. I braced myself to be hit by him again. However, that moment never came. To my surprise, the high-handed man collapsed at Nancy's words. He sat down on the spot, his shoulders shaking. I thought he was trembling with anger, but to my astonishment, he started shedding tears. Huh. I let out a dumbfounded gasp, staring blankly at her husband, who was now crying out loud. It's rare to see a grown man sob like that. While her husband was sobbing, Nancy watched him with a clearly disgusted look. Then, she swiftly pulled off the ring from her finger and threw it at the weeping man. Think crying will get you forgiveness. You really never grow up, Nancy said, looking down at her husband with a contemptuous gaze. I later learned this was always his pattern. He imprisoned Nancy in the house using violence to ensure she met no one. Then, when she lost her temper, he'd cry and apologize. He could have affairs freely, but when Nancy brought up divorce, he flew into a rage and became violent. Finally, he'd cling to Nancy, sobbing. No wonder Nancy wanted to escape. Even her husband's current fling, sitting in the car, was taken aback, seeing him bawl. "I remember when you were kind," Nancy said. "This is the end of the road for a selfish man who thought a gentle woman would forgive everything." At Nancy's words, her husband's crying became even louder. "I'll have my attorney contact you about the details." "Don't ever come near me again," Nancy declared. Leaving her sobbing husband behind, she tightly gripped my hand and started walking. When I looked at her profile, she was firmly closing her mouth and staring straight ahead. "Hey, did you really fall for me?" I asked Nancy, who was walking silently. Nancy answered, "Yes." I felt the temperature of her hand rise slightly at that moment, so I didn't ask any more questions. She probably wasn't lying. I was sure of it. "Hey, let me say it too," I said. She stopped and looked up at me with upturned eyes. Her gaze was wavering, and she seemed a bit anxious, as if afraid of being rejected by me. "I've liked you since the first time we met," I said. I'll never forget Nancy's face turning red up to her ears. It's been 10 years since then. Nancy's fierceness back then was something else. I still shiver just thinking about it. We're visiting Catalina Island, the place where we first met. After so long, it brings back memories. Next to me, Nancy, with my wedding ring shining on her finger, smiles and says, "This place brings back so many memories." I honestly told her that seeing the ring on her finger back then had completely bummed me out. Nancy teased me with a playful laugh. "What happened to the ring you threw away?" I asked. "That ring," Nancy replied. "It was embedded in the ground the next day. I found it and stepped on it." She laughed mischievously, saying it might come out if dug up. Immediately after that event, we hired a lawyer and proceeded with the divorce process. Her ex-husband wouldn't agree to the divorce, so it eventually came down to mediation. I wanted to marry her right away, but the divorce took about a year to finalize. I officially proposed to her the night the divorce was finalized. A year later, we happily got married. It felt like a long journey, but now, blessed with 2 kids, we are a happy family of 4. We have our occasional fights, but that's part of the charm. I think I'm usually the one who gives in during our arguments. "Hey, Mom, Dad. Over here, over here." Our children call us with loud voices. Our daughter takes after me, and our son is the spitting image of Nancy. Their personalities are also similar, which makes us laugh. We walk towards our kids, hand in hand. "Okay, time for a quiz," I said. The word quiz excites the kids. "So, what kind of place is this?" I asked. My question was met with voices of dissatisfaction from the kids. "It's too easy and not interesting," they complained. Then, our daughter snorted and answered, "Don't play dumb. It's the southernmost part of America, right?" I told her with a composed face, "No, that's not right." Once again, there were boos from the children. "This is where your mom first let your dad taste her homemade lunchbox," I joked. My daughter hit my knee in frustration as I spoke teasingly. We didn't know that the children unanimously voiced their complaints. Next to them, Nancy, looking a bit guilty, was smiling. I sensed she had a secret. Then, scratching her head, Nancy said, "Actually, that lunch was made by my friend." A truth I learned after 10 years. The kids rolled over, laughing hysterically. The beautiful memory shattered, leaving me stunned for a moment. So this is what they mean by truth is stranger than fiction. Come to think of it, Nancy was bad at cooking. I hadn't noticed that about the lunchbox until now. I guess I was just head over heels for her. My name tag is the only one that looks like this. With quivering hands, Lily handed me a name tag that proudly said middle school graduate. Then she broke down in tears right then. I yelled Alex's name as I barged into the location where the business entrance ceremony was taking place. A man moved forward from the chaos and approached me. I assumed this was Alex. His face virtually shouted suspicion and untrustworthiness. Did you make this? I questioned Isily as I thrust the name tag in his face. As though he understood, Alex nodded. Oh, I see what's happening. You're Lily's relatives, correct? She must have gotten her name tag by accident. Probably a practical joke. You believe you can dismiss this as a joke at this point? I insisted. Now relax. You won't make it in the working world if you let something like this to worry you. Please ask Lily to return here so we can receive her correct name tag. That's all I have to say. I think I heard my patience snapping at that very moment. This man is not going to get away with it. I murmured softly, "Call the board," as Alex turned his back on me and began to leave. After this, all of you are fired. Alex would go through his own hell for daring to make fun of my darling granddaughter. Henry Grant is my name. My age is 62. I would have been retired and leading a peaceful life a generation ago, but I continue to work full-time. It's not because I need the money, let me be clear. My wife and I have saved enough money to live well in retirement, and all 3 of my children are self-sufficient and have their own families. I don't retire for the straightforward reason that I can't bear to leave the career I've dedicated decades of my life to. I appear to be a workaholic by nature. When I was younger, work was on my mind all the time, even while I slept. Every time I went on a lengthy vacation, I would eventually become sick. I therefore used to work through my vacation days. These days, I strive to avoid working extra and assign chores to my subordinates. My wife and kids chastise me for going overboard, so I'm coming in on the weekends less frequently. Although having less time for work is a little annoying, I am thankful that I still have a job that needs me at my age. Luckily, my health has always been terrific. I've never had a serious illness, even at my age. I intend to continue working until my body fails, even though the younger people at work undoubtedly wish I had retired by now. Even a workaholic like me has personal issues these days. One of them is Lily, my granddaughter. The only daughter among my 6 grandchildren is Lily. I've always had a soft spot for Lily, which may be uncouth of a grandfather to admit. I am aware that I like her to the others. I covertly give Lily spending money or purchase small items for her, even while my wife chastises me. I'm not planning on stopping. I believe that I was being discreet, but in the end, the family knew that I was partial to Lily. The other grandchildren stopped griping, presumably accepting that I would always spoil her. Because Lily is a girl, my wife and the others believe that I do it with her. But it isn't totally accurate. Yes, I was ecstatic to have my first granddaughter, but Lily's personality is what makes me especially protective of her. Lily's shyness and introversion have always been there. She used to hide behind her mother during family get-togethers since she is awful at public speaking. Lily remained to herself, while the other grandchildren were outgoing and frequently requested games or gifts. In a household full of gregarious people, I always appreciated her calm demeanor. That's why I couldn't resist giving Lily more attention, even in the face of my wife's disapproval. This year, Lily finally became a working adult when she landed her job. The whole family celebrated her milestone. Unfortunately, her new life didn't start smoothly. Lily told me everything after returning home from her company's entrance ceremony. Lily's employer was a company in the welfare industry. It operated paid nursing homes, group homes, and provided in-home care services. At the company, Lily was hired as a welfare service worker. For Lily, who struggled with interpersonal communication, the job search process had been nothing short of torturous. Whenever she felt even the slightest pressure from the other party, she would freeze unable to find her words. She had lost count of how many rejection notices she had received. However, during one particular interview, she somehow managed to express herself without stumbling. It was likely thanks to the interviewer, who listened attentively and made her feel at ease. Indeed, luck often played a role in job interviews, depending on the demeanor of the interviewer. Eventually, Lily passed the only interview where she could speak comfortably and was offered a position. But her hopes soon turned disappointment. The cause was an incident at a social gathering for new hires before the official entrance ceremony. The gathering was intended to help the new employees build rapport, but it was there that Lily caught the attention of Alex, the HR officer in charge of training new employees. As the organizer of the event, Alex stood before the new hires and began to speak. "All right, everyone. May I have your attention? My name is Alex, and I'm the HR officer responsible for new employee training. Think of me as the organizer of this little gathering. If you have any problems, feel free to come to me. Now then, let me start by saying congratulations on your job offers." The other new hires around Lily responded with words of gratitude, prompting her to hurriedly bow and thank him as well. Alex seemed pleased with the reaction and continued, "Okay, let's get to know each other better. After all, you're going to be colleagues. Let's do some introductions. Your name, school background, motivation for joining the company, and anything else you'd like to add. Let's start with the person over there." The first person he pointed to looked visibly nervous, but Lily was even more anxious. Introducing herself in front of strangers for Lily. This was an enormous hurdle. However, it was an unavoidable step as she embarked on her new life. Recalling the practice she had done for interviews, Lily mustered her courage. Finally, it was her turn. "My name is Lily. I hold a high school equivalency certificate. I want to gain skills and experience here to become someone who can help others in need. I may cause some trouble at times, but I look forward to working with all of you." As Lily finished her trembling introduction and bowed, the room erupted in applause. She had somehow managed to do it. Just like everyone else, relieved, Lily lifted her head and was about to take her seat. But one person wouldn't let her. It was Alex from the HR department. "Wait a moment, Lily. May I ask you something?" With a mischievous grin, he continued. "A high school equivalency certificate. Does that mean you didn't graduate from high school?" "Yes, I dropped out," Lily replied hesitantly. Her hesitation was understandable. Lily had been unable to attend school during her high school years due to severe bullying by her classmates. After spending some time at home due to school refusal, she eventually decided to leave school entirely. Although her grades were not poor, and both the school and her teachers encouraged her to transfer to another high school, Lily refused. Her painful experiences had left her fearful of any environment filled with people her age. After dropping out, she studied independently and passed a high school equivalency exam. Despite struggling through the job search process, she had finally secured a position. But Alex, unaware of Lily's past, continued to press her mercilessly. "Oh, so you dropped out of high school. What a waste. Getting in and then quitting. Why? Why did you drop out?" "Well, that's... I see. It must be something you can't talk about. Did you get expelled for causing trouble, Lily? You've got a wild side, huh?" "No, that's not true. I left voluntarily because of, family circumstances." Blushing with embarrassment and anxiety, Lily denied his accusations. Alex nodded knowingly as if satisfied with her reaction. "Ah, I see. Family circumstances, huh? Well, that can't be helped. Sorry for prying. Now then, could you redo your introduction?" "Huh? What do you mean?" Lily asked. "Did you forget? Name, school background, motivation. You skipped your school background earlier, so let's try again. What was the last school you graduated from? What middle school did you attend?" With a smirk, Alex forced Lily to redo her introduction. Everyone at the gathering turned their eyes toward her. Trembling uncontrollably, Lily had no choice but to comply with Alex's demand. "I'm Lily. I'm from Seaside Middle School. Nice to meet you." When Lily managed to utter her final words, Alex clapped theatrically and egged on the other new hires to applaud as well. After that, the atmosphere during the gathering changed, and Lily was treated like someone to be avoided. The experience brought back memories of the hell she had endured in high school. It left her utterly crushed, but she chose not to share it with her family. She couldn't bear to disappoint them, especially after they had celebrated her job offer with so much joy. Then came the day of the entrance ceremony. Following the ceremony, a group training session for all new employees was scheduled. There was no doubt Alex, the HR trainer, would be there. Remembering the incident at the gathering, Lily felt a heavy weight in her chest, but skipping the ceremony on her first day at the company was out of the question. That morning, her entire family came out to see her off. "Lily, congratulations on starting your new job. If anything pleasant happens, tell me right away, okay? No matter what, I'm always on your side." "Thanks, Grandpa, but I'll be fine. Well, I'm off now." Encouraging herself with a quiet, "I'll be fine. I'll be fine," Lily headed to the entrance ceremony. When she arrived at the venue, she saw many other new hires milling about nervously. Among the faces, she spotted some from the gathering that day. It appeared that after checking in and receiving their name tags, they were directed to take their assigned seats. Lily joined the line for check-in, feeling tense, and gave her name to a young staff member who seemed to be part of HR. The staff member smiled warmly. "Congratulations," they said before searching through the pile of name tags for Lily. But no matter how much they searched, Lily's name tag couldn't be found. The staffer repeatedly asked for her name and cross-checked the employee list, drawing attention from others in the process. As someone who hated being the center of attention, Lily stood frozen in discomfort. Then, from the crowd, the last person she wanted to see appeared. It was Alex from HR. Well, isn't it, Lily? Is something wrong?" "Yes, they can't seem to find my name tag." "Oh, that's right. I completely forgot. I have your name tag with me. I kept it to give it to you personally. Sorry for the surprise." Alex beckoned Lily to step behind the reception desk. From his pocket, he pulled out a name tag and handed it to her. Suspicious of his behavior, but not wanting to appear rude, Lily accepted the name tag and thanked him. "Thank you. Wait, what is this?" The moment she looked at it, she was speechless. The name tag Alex handed her didn't have her name on it. It read, "Middle School Graduate." As Lily stared in shock, Alex, clearly pleased with her reaction, sneered. "That's good enough for you, isn't it? You should be grateful I made a name tag for a middle school grad like you. If you don't like it, just go home." Humiliated and overwhelmed, Lily ran out of the ceremony venue without looking back. She made it home barely 5 minutes after arriving at the ceremony. When she returned, she came straight to my room and tearfully told me everything about what had happened at the gathering and the entrance ceremony. "Only my name tag is just like this." With trembling hands, Lily handed me the name tag that said "Middle School Graduate" and broke down crying right there. "You did well to endure it, Lily. Leave the rest to me," I said, placing my hand gently on Lily's head as she lay on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. It seemed it would take some time for her to calm down. I called my wife to take care of Lily, then had one of my subordinates bring the car around and headed straight to the entrance ceremony venue. Though I was stopped at the reception desk, I pushed past them and stormed into the venue. The ceremony was in progress, but I didn't care. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Alex, come out here right now." The room fell silent for a moment, followed by a wave of murmurs through the crowd. A man walked toward me. This must be Alex. He had an untrustworthy face that practically screamed suspicious. I am Alex, and who might you be? If you're here to cause trouble, I'll call the police, he said. Ignoring Alex's question, I held out the name tag. Alex looked at it and nodded as if everything made sense. Oh, I see now. You must be Lily's family. That name tag must have been handed to her by mistake. It's probably just someone's prank. Honestly, these young folks today are so fragile, running to their families over something like this. You think you can dismiss this as just a prank? I shot back. Come on, calm down. If she's going to crumble over something this minor, she'll never survive in the working world. I'll make sure she gets her proper name tag. Tell her to come back here now, if you'll excuse me. At that moment, I swear I heard the sound of my patient snapping. This guy wasn't getting away with this. As Alex turned his back on me and started to walk away, I spoke quietly. Call the board. You're all fired. What are you saying? Are you senile or something? Alex snapped. I still hadn't answered your first question, kid. My name is Henry Grant. I run your parent company. Let me make this clear. It wasn't an empty bluff. I spent decades in the welfare industry and currently oversee multiple companies as their CEO. The company Lily joined happens to be one of my subsidiaries. Out of respect for Lily's wish to secure a job on her own, I had stayed out of her job hunt. But this harassment, that was a different story. Intervening in subsidiary affairs is something I can easily do. As soon as I introduced myself, the executives seated at the VIP section began to stir. Alex, who initially didn't believe me, grew pale as he sought his superiors. Panic. Wait, you're joking, right? You're the CEO of the parent company. That can't be. Alex, what are you doing? Apologize to this man immediately. A flustered older man from the VIP section rushed over to Alex, berating him. I recognized him. It was George, an executive at the subsidiary. Judging by his attitude toward Alex, they were likely father and son. George, is this your son? I asked. Yes, Mr. Grant. I deeply apologize for the trouble he's caused. He's an unworthy child, and I ask for your forgiveness. George, visibly terrified, bowed deeply and forced Alex to bow as well, his hand pressed firmly on the back of his son's head. As both apologized profusely, I continued, George, take a look at this. My granddaughter left for her entrance ceremony and came back with this. How would you feel if your daughter was treated this way? Would an apology be enough for you? This is unthinkable. Alex did this, my son. I've also heard that during the social gathering, Alex relentlessly questioned my granddaughter about her academic background. It's true she dropped out of high school, but our company policy treats high school equivalency as equivalent to a high school diploma. Isn't that correct? I paused for a moment, sweeping my gaze across the room, glaring at everyone before continuing. My granddaughter was hired under the same conditions as those with high school diplomas, yet at the entrance ceremony, she was handed this tasteless name tag. A company that allows employees to harass young hires unchecked is frankly rotten to the core. You'd better look forward to the next personnel reassignment order. As I glared at George and his son, the other executives began to gather around. It seemed they had realized this incident might have consequences for them too, and were eager to address it. Even the new hires attending the ceremony were watching the situation unfold. The ceremony itself had already become a secondary concern. Turning to the gathered executives, I addressed them firmly. I trust you all heard me. Alex here is unfit to remain in this company. He's mocked my granddaughter's academic background and created this vulgar name tag. I held up the offensive name tag for everyone to see. A low murmur spread through the crowd as they took in the sight. It seemed the executives were eager to distance themselves, insisting they had no part in Alex's actions. Even so, allowing Alex's behavior to go unchecked makes them complicit. Today, my granddaughter happened to be the target. But what if it had been other employees? Would you have listened to them the same way, Or would you have swept it under the rug because the perpetrator was an executive's son? That's not. You can't deny the possibility. Moving forward, I will personally investigate whether there are other employees who've been harassed. Based on those findings, I'll decide how to handle Alex and anyone else involved. That's all. I'd informed the gathered executives of my intentions and prepared to leave the venue. As I turned to go, a voice from one of the new hires rose up in the hall. "Excuse me, Mr. Grant, I have something I need to tell you." Alex slumped next to his father, reacting sharply upon seeing the young female employee who had spoken up. Sensing this was something Alex didn't want revealed, I decided to listen. Sure enough, the woman exposed more of Alex's disgraceful behavior. She recounted how, during the new hire gathering, Alex had asked her inappropriate personal questions about her measurements and touched her inappropriately. Later, he had tried to invite her out for drinks, but she declined out of fear. Then Alex had threatened her, saying, "I'm the son of an executive. If you cross me, you'll regret it." Luckily, another new hire happened to show up at the right moment, preventing the situation from escalating further. However, the woman had carried her unease into the entrance ceremony. "Damn it, that woman. I told her not to tell anyone." Alex shouted. "What have you done?" "It seems my granddaughter wasn't Alex's only victim," I said firmly. "I'll be conducting a thorough investigation of all employees, including new hires. I'll leave one of my subordinates here to ensure no one intimidates the staff or tampers with evidence. Anyone caught covering this up will be fired immediately." With that, I finally left the entrance ceremony venue and returned home. Later, I heard that the situation spiraled into complete chaos. More victims of Alex's harassment came forward, and at one point, George and Alex even got into a physical altercation. As promised, I conducted a thorough investigation, interviewing employees to uncover the truth. The results were damning, and I took decisive action against Alex and others at the subsidiary. First, Alex, the main culprit who had hurt Lily, was fired. It turned out that, beyond the woman who had spoken up during the ceremony, numerous other women had suffered similar harassment at his hands. Using his status as the son of an executive, Alex had repeatedly targeted female colleagues and subordinates, behaving as he pleased without fear of consequences. The reports from multiple victims left his father, George, unable to shield him any longer. Ultimately, George himself was also dismissed from the company. It wasn't just Alex who faced consequences. Following the investigation, the inquiry revealed cases of harassment and abuse of power by other employees, particularly toward younger staff members. Several employees were reassigned or faced salary reductions. A few individuals were also removed from their executive positions. In the wake of this large-scale personnel shakeup, I sent trusted subordinates to the subsidiary to take over key roles. This was part of a deliberate effort to remove the corrupt elements and bring in fresh leadership, with the goal of revitalizing the company. I'm confident that my subordinates will transform the subsidiary into a more transparent and supportive workplace. As for Alex, he'd been engaged to a woman introduced to him by his father. However, the exposure of his malicious harassment toward female employees caused the engagement to be called off. Having lost both his job and his fiancée, Alex now reportedly spends his nights indulging in aimless partying and heavy drinking. His initial employment at our subsidiary had been secured solely through his father's connections. Having never gone through a proper job search, it's doubtful that Alex will be able to find a new position on his own. He will likely end up living off his aging father for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, I continue to work energetically as always. The day I barged into the subsidiary without an appointment earned me a severe scolding from my subordinates. However, I suspect I avoided being pushed into retirement, because this incident was for none other than my granddaughter, Lily. Everyone in my company knows how much I dote on my granddaughter. When I explained the full extent of my actions, even the executives who initially criticized my outburst understood and shared in my indignation. Some of the senior staff, who had known Lily since she was little, were so outraged that they said, "Should we just shut down that subsidiary?" As for Lily, she has been going to work every day since the entrance ceremony. The family urged her to take a break, worried about her well-being, but Lily firmly refused, leaving the house each morning with cheerful energy. Concerned that she might be pushing herself too hard, I couldn't help but make a suggestion. "Lily, isn't it difficult for you to stay at the company after the scene I caused? If you'd like, why don't you come work for my company instead?" "No, Grandpa. I'm fine. I'll keep working at my current company. Thanks to you, the bad managers are gone, and everyone's happy about it." Apparently, the women who had suffered harassment from Alex were incredibly grateful to Lily. Whenever Lily finds herself the target of curious or judgmental stares, those women always step in to shield her. Thanks to their support, Lily has been able to avoid isolation at work and focus on her responsibilities. "That's great to hear. It's reassuring to know they're looking out for you," I said, relieved. But to my surprise, Lily shook her head. Then, with a serious expression, she looked at me and said, "I've always relied on others to protect me. Whether it was you, my friends, or my coworkers, but I can't keep depending on others. I need to learn to protect myself. If I don't, I'll just keep running away like I did in high school." "Lily, you are—" I started to say, but she cut me off. "That's why I'm going to become a stronger person. Strong enough that my family can feel at ease watching over me. So, Grandpa, keep watching me, okay?" With that, she hurriedly finished getting ready for work as if to hide her embarrassment and left the house with a radiant smile. As I watched her retreating figure, I felt my eyes well up with pride and emotion.